You don't exist. Take a perk and a talk of that shit. Money swallowed like sis. Did it perfect in the kid. Got a billion who sang on my head. Look up better put on the road I just spent. I know we got $1 million. The devil that shit ain't not cheap again.
Hello and welcome back, fellow anime lovers, to MangaMuse. I am delighted to have you join us once again in the world of fanfiction and fantasy. This is the third part of What If Naruto Enters Helluvaboss. Special note, this fanfic is written in the masterpiece of Bones Boy 15 on FANFICTIONnet. Do check and support the author too. Now smash the like, share and subscribe button for more. Also press the bell icon so that you never miss such great parts. Thanks for the introduction. Now let's dive into the world. We're going to have to pay for so much yard work. Stella groaned into her hand. Come now, darling. Oh, save it you imp F shithead, she snarled, and then glared out the window at the damage to her lawn. I never should have asked about that offer Beelzebub sent out. I can't believe that little BSTRD has his own business, and he's using it. Yeah, I know, I'm watching it now. Vortex rubbed his face as he watched his girlfriend's dumbass brother interact with his boss' toxic ex-boyfriend on channel 666. He was still a little thrown by the professional interview that aired just before the founder of the instant mutilation professors or whatever showed up. He didn't know how the cocky SHT pulled off surviving that barrage on top of the explosion, but the why behind the latter was straightforward. More of a smokescreen than an actual act to retaliate with. A setup for the ambush that followed. It was disturbingly effective and very much something that someone with military training did. Tex, himself, had never enlisted, but his father served a few years after his stint in Wrath's Hellhound Academy. His accolades got him clients and friends that Vortex would rather forget existed. He pushed memories of the past aside and focused on the here and now. His girlfriend's brother was always sort of different. Fox fiends were an offshoot of hellhounds, B claimed, but this kind of military planning was more than most hellhounds SHT. It was more than most of the nobility got. Their plans usually consisted of throwing waves after waves of minions at their enemies. I mean dropping an F-bomb on someone? Overkill much, Blitzo? Ah, VERYYYY was in rant mode. This hadn't happened in a couple of months, not since before she went into rehab. He needed to keep her from popping a bottle open. Boss, maybe go back to working on the next tour. If you don't come up with something, then B's buying us out. While he had absolutely no problem with that SHT, he might even get a decent F-pay bump out of the whole thing if his girlfriend bought his boss label. He had no longing to be B's beach. Well, not any more than he currently was. His crotch still hurt from last week's little fun run. She needed to get over her stress of her brother's overnight disappearance. At least they'd planned for him to be gone this week, so unless B was watching Pride News, which was highly unlikely, Vortex was good to sit back in his recliner and recover. Where did his phone go? Babe, Tex just gave me a brilliant idea. Oh, his life. A familiar weight slipped over his shoulders and a sweet familiar scent wafted into his nose. A furred cheek brushed against his and another hand started going past his shoulder to his chest. Tell you what, you write a bomb track for my baby bro and what? Oh, look up BU98 and jump to 9 minutes on VoxTube. Yeah, you'll get it. Anyway, you write a track for him to drop and I'll not only buy out your label, I'll pay off your debts and get you a new work office. Any ring, any price. Oh, no, he had to stop this from happening. He had to wait. What was Babe, Vortex yelped when one of her talented hands slipped below his waistline and squeezed. Hot breath cooed into his ear before a tongue lashed over his cheek. His head was tilted to the side and familiar lips melded together all too briefly. Then, as sudden as it started, it ended. SHH, I'm on the phone. Just sit tight and relax, babe. He almost wished he couldn't do that just to spite her. Still there? Or are you masturbating to our pre-gaming again? There were times that Vortex hated his life in hell. And even as B's hands started to entice him into some fun activities while she teased his boss over his phone, he could only determine that this was not one of those times. The excitement of the previous day passed, and a new day dawned on the home of the Goshen prince and his family. Octavia, back in her preferred dress and cardigan, poked her head around the corner of the doorframe. Left, clear. Right, clear. She darted across the hall to brace herself at her father's study. Another quick scout. Still clear. Another dash, this time to the corner that led her to the left wing and hopefully freedom. She had to have enough time on her hands by to wait out. Sploosh clatter. Cold? What the F? Octavia didn't shriek so much as she screamed. Her beak started chattering and her legs were knocking and being drenched sucks. Where the flying SHT did that bucket of ice water come from? Dead. Her bodyguard chirped. Octavia pulled the water-soaked cap out from her eyes. She looked left, right, behind, up here, princess. She looked up and gave the Duke the biggest, hardest middle finger she could muster while she was suffering from hypothermia's first stages. Of course her freak of nature bodyguard was sitting on the ceiling. Just of course, he was. How the SHT did he even do that? That's 15-0 in my favor. And then he was on the ground, crouched in front of her. His stupid not cute who was she kidding? It was so cute, and she wished she had one like it. Tail wriggled about behind him like a racing ferret as he gave her a grin. So, you still think head slaps are the worst I can do? FFFYU. The back of her head still throbbed from the morning of borderline abuse she suffered whenever he caught her. The first 5 times where she tried to ignore him were the worst. It was only after the 5th time that he offered to not be as obvious about his job if she could escape his sight for a solid 5 minutes, anytime between then and noon, that she tried taking it more seriously. That's what I thought. He offered his hand, and after deliberating it while giving him the darkest glare she could muster, she accepted his offer. He hoisted her to her feet and then put his thumb on her forehead. Hold still working the kinks out with this. Okay, that's one way to dry off instantly. The rest of the hall was a mess now, though. You do realize my father has a grimoire that could have accomplished what you just did without the explosive end, don't you? She asked, taking in the splotches of neon that were spread around the hall. Yeah, but I think the hallway needed some color. Naruto grinned down at her. He plucked her beanie off of her head and ruffled her feathers prick before the cap was put back. So, are you done dying now? Yes. I'm done being the focus of your immaturity. She groused with crossed arms. A claw tapped on her beak and her bodyguard grinned at her. Our immaturity. I saw you smiling. Octavia glared at him. She was not smiling, and even if she was, he couldn't. When did he take that picture? 4 minutes ago? Oh, the absolute amount of teeth in his smile was too much. Yeah, you take too long scanning your surroundings. Don't worry, that's going to be something we work on this week. How when delete that? She grabbed for the phone, only for it to be hoisted out of her reach. Absolutely not. Did you see how wide and adorable that smile was? Nah, this is gonna be your contact pic, he said, grinning as he messed with his phone, likely to do just that. Well, okay, that wasn't so bad. Octavia could live with the Duke of Gluttony having a picture of her grinning like she's an owlet. He'd be the only one who saw it, so that was okay. Oh, wait. Almost forgot something. He tapped a few more times on his phone. And sent. Whoosh. Sent? What the F did that mean? Wait a second. No, he wouldn't dare. No. The first thing her father will do is post that picture on Voxtagram, and then he'll tag her in it. No. Yeah, I'm contractually obligated to send any particularly adorable pictures to the parents of anyone under the age of 18. What hellborn doesn't like seeing their precious baby be a mischievous little devil? Naruto grinned at her, all teeth, while his stupid too cute for its own good tail wriggled around behind him. Your father will be so happy. Ah, so he's chosen death then? Very well. I'm going to take that phone and make you break up with your stupid girlfriend over text, she hissed. His smile didn't break, but once she made true on her words. Hate to break it to you, princess, but I don't have a girlfriend. Bull SHT, he'd been looking at his phone almost every other glimpse she had of him. Probably waiting for a sec pic or something. Like he was now. Oh yeah, then who is Charlie? She countered with a scowl. She remembered that phone call. It wasn't like she was her father or her mother, who had very narrow-minded attention spans. My pseudo-niece. What? Octavia furrowed her brow. She hissed when he patted her on her knit cap-covered head. Silly little owl child, use the brain that I know you have. She glared at him, as if she was going to give him the satisfaction of wasting more than the time she spoke with him any attention. Very well, allow me to spell it out by riddle. This F-monster. I'm a notable member of Hell's Court, a member of its House of Sin. I'm very active in the Pride Ring, and Charlie is short for my name. Who am I? Despite her longing to not humor his antics, Octavia mulled the riddle over. Her jaw popped open and her eyes went wide as she stared at her bodyguard. You were on the phone with Princess F. Morningstar? Well, I don't know what her body count is, but she does have a girlfriend who I'd guess she probably treats like a princess. Octavia felt her face burn as her bodyguard hummed. But yes, well deduced, Octavia. Now, come on, it's about lunchtime, and I think I can teach the cooks how to make ramen. What the F even is ramen? A thick, acrid miasma filled the hallway with the smell of ozone. Glowing white eyes turned to her and a shiny black, almost chitin-like material began to spread across parts of his body. 3 blue dots sprouted through the seal on his headband, glowing almost as bright as the eyes in his sockets. One of the black and orange arms grabbed her shoulders and Octavia flinched. As suddenly as it started to appear, the miasma and altered appearance were gone, and her bodyguard stood, a tight smile on his face that didn't quite reach his eyes. Of all the things I will teach you in this trial week, this has just become the most important of lessons. Before she could think to say a word of protest, Octavia was hoisted onto his shoulders and he pointed toward the kitchens. Quickly, we must make haste before another second passes. And then they shot off. Why were adults so stupid and weird? Do you want it to be one? Lying in her bed, Luna stared at the screen of her phone, the message box enlarged for her to type. She still hadn't responded yet, and with good reason. Getting mixed up with nobility was not in her life plans. For all the SHT talked about them, the part where they tended to forget about the smaller people wasn't too far off. The ones in the orphanages that just wanted a home. The ones fending for survival in the streets. The damned souls that were wiped on a yearly basis. Alright, she didn't give a SHT about that last group. She may have an axe to grind about orphanages and street life, though. It might have only been a month before she was hauled into a care facility, but that was considered lucky. PRSTTN life avoided, lucky F Luna. Do you want it to be one? F, she growled and flopped her head back on her pillows, an arm over her eyes. She wasn't sure how to answer that. Was it the subtle trap of a secretive, selfish noble? Was it an innocent inquiry from the idiot she spent a night with? Did it really matter either way, or was she looking for a reason to say no again? Ugh, going over it in her head wouldn't get her anywhere. She needed another soundboard. She couldn't ask her co-workers. Fatty and Millie were private about their pasts, and they respected her own privacy when their jobs weren't on the line. She felt it was fair to give them the same courtesy. Blitzo. F that. Not only did he keep cursing Naruto out after he let the dumb imp motherfucker off with a goddamn slap on the wrist, but he did so while counting out the contents of the 5 literal suitcases of money that bought him off. Which he'd been doing for the past day. Which meant he wasn't taking calls for jobs. Which meant she had to actually schedule appointments all day. Which left her with little time to herself until when she got home, and left her in her current situation. So yeah, her dad's bias was more than apparent. Morningstar, Charlie, was another no-go. The Princess of Hell was biased as apparently. She thought Luna and Naruto were a cute couple. Luna refused to admit if and how fast her tail wagged at the thought, and she kind of dropped the ball in regards to the whole situation yesterday. That girl was the daughter of Lucifer and needed to grow a spine. I need more friends. Luna growled as she raked a claw down her face. Then sighed and lifted her phone back up. Well, when in doubt, look to the internet. 20 minutes of mindless searches and scrolling later, and she was still stuck at square one. Ugh, if only she knew someone who wasn't biased and kind of understood what she was going through. Wait. Luna perked an ear up and went through her contacts. Did she manage to yep? The weird purple cyclops that was dating Morningstar was there under purple IWTF. She should probably change that after this call. If she answered on the first ring, that's a great sign about how her life is going. Look, I don't want whatever the you're selling, so off. Huh, blunt and to the point. She might actually be able to get along with this chick. Good, because I didn't want to sell you anything. Luna snarked back. There was a brief pause. Right, you're the hellhound that called Charlie yesterday. She felt a little special, being remembered as that hellhound. You're not trying to chew her out through me, are you? She couldn't have known. Wow, very pessimistic. Although an interesting idea, no, Luna had an agenda. Look, so, you know Naruto. Hang on a sec. The phone was muffled on the other end, but still audible. Charlie, what the F are you doing? Dazzle, get her down from there. No, I don't care how crooked the chandelier looked. You have no reason to climb up there. Well, maybe if either of us had F-wings, then I wouldn't be so pissed. I'm only shouting because you freaked me out. SHT, Luna would have grabbed snacks if she knew she was going to get a free audio show. Please stay on the ground while I finish this phone call. It's that hellhound, Loom or something. Wait, no, SHT, Charlie, get. Huh, that sounded like Spanish. There was a rustle and then a new voice. Luna, I'm so sorry. I tried to talk him into getting my help, I promise. Huh, maybe she should just shoot Morningstar a text saying they were square. Charlie, give me my phone back. She's not even calling about that. Another minute of half-finished apologies followed before the Cyclops managed to wrangle the phone free. Sorry about that. She feels bad, I guess. No SHT, Luna snorted. She shifted her phone and sat up in her bed. So, anyway, about my question? About that Estúpido Zoro. What do you want to know? Because Charlie would be better to ask. Look, the first time we met he asked me out and I said no. Naturally. Right, it wasn't creepy or anything, just off-putting, surprising, too sudden, and blunt. Luna's brow furrowed before she groaned into her hand. Did Charlie do the same thing the same way? Yeah, the other girl snorted. Not same day, same time, but way sooner than I expected. So, you turned him down. Now what? Upset you missed your shot at bagging money bags and friends on him? No. She could give two shits about how much money someone had, as long as they weren't total assholes about it. And she did not friend-zone him did she? He asked if I wanted to do something Saturday, through text. Luna felt her ears burn. And I said it's a date. Oof, poor choice of words. Yeah, well, I wasn't even thinking about it. Luna growled. Obviously. This speech was so lucky. So, what, is he assuming it is then? No, I don't think so. She felt her tail curl around her ankles as she brought her chin to her knees. He asked if I wanted it to be one. Well? Well, what? Well, do you? Do I what? Dios, do you want it to be a date? She reiterated, slowly. Luna shook her head and scowled again while she played with the tip of her tail. That's not why I'm calling. What if this is a trap, a trick, a ploy? Then deal with it when it happens. Right, because it was that simple. Her huff must have been audible because there was another smattering of Spanish, maybe the word puppy. What the F? Before she heard an aggravated growl. Look, I barely know you, and I barely like him, but if there's one thing Charlie and I agreed on, it's that you two like each other. What's the worst that comes of it? He turns out to be a polygamist with 4 other side beaches. Luna felt her lips curl at the thought and her tail tightened around her legs. Newsflash, beach, you're in hell. 65% of the people here are like that. About 3% are pretty decent. And then there's the rest of the bunch who just FSCK. That was a fair point. It wasn't like Luna herself was a saint. Her lack of SXL partners was more due to Blitzo playing a masterful game of interference than it was a lack of longing. SHT, she was so close to getting in on a menage a trois last Sinsmas, and then Blitzo crashed that party. She needed to get back at him for that. The scheming for that could wait, she had to get back to the problem at hand. Did you feel any pressure to say yes when when Charlie asked you out? Well, I did, but probably not for the same reasons you do. Huh, that was curious. She was a sinner, right? Just smelled like spoiled chicken? Whatever, that was semantics. I still did it, because I wanted it, and you know what? I don't regret a second of it. Awa, Vaggie, I love you, too. Luna snorted as another hushed altercation occurred over the other line. She looked at the tip of her tail pinched between her claws and chewed her lip. She sighed and rubbed her face. I'm going to regret this. Thanks for the help, both of you. You're welcome. Yeah, whatever. Next time you call, make it a worthwhile reason instead of your bullshit personal drama. Vaggy, come on, be nice. No. Beach. Luna scoffed around a laugh and hung up. She opened her messenger app and looked at the foreboding text that lingered there. Do you want it to be one? Luna stared at it before she brushed some of her hair out of her eyes. Her thumbs danced across the screen and pressed on send before she could overthink it again. She flopped back on her bed and let her phone rest on her stomach until it chirped an alert that the message was read. Did I stutter? Luna waited with bated breath. Was that too sarcastic? Too obtuse? Too direct? Why didn't anyone hand out manuals to this whole, maybe start a relationship thing? She just told herself not to overthink it. She jumped when her phone whined and almost threw it up into the air when she lifted it to see the response. Wear something comfortable. If capable of it, Luna's entire head would have burst into fire. Her tail whipped around so fast she thought it might snap off. Her lips pulled back into a wide smile as she let her eyes drift close and cradled her phone on her chest, just like she had a certain fox fiend pillow a week or so ago. Blitzo would wake her a few hours later from a great dreamless sleep. She'd eat a larger portion of dinner than normal, and her tail would be whipping about non-stop. By the time she retired for bed, she'd looked back at the message no less than 10 more times. The rest of the week couldn't go by fast enough. Wear something comfortable. Naruto sat on the edge of the weight bench that resides within the rarely used in-house gym. He was half through with his routine. Octavia was in the midst of a lesson on astrology, being supervised by no less than 3 of his clones and some fussy pompous demon prick older than their bloodlines when Luna's response came through. Sarcastic and crude it might have been, it wasn't an outright no. Briefly though he knew her, he figured Luna would have just said no if she didn't want it to be a date. Naruto stared at his sent message for another moment before he set his phone to the side and let his claws rake over his head. The slight sting of broken flesh told him it was real. This wasn't a dream, it was real. His tail whipped about like a twister, and the way his lips pulled up into his face hurt. It stopped when a thought occurred. Luna knew he was a member of B's house. What if she only accepted because of that? He knew how power-hungry demons could be. He knew the weight his name carried in the circles of hellborn and sinners alike. Worse, what if she thought he wasn't giving her an option? No, that didn't make sense. He accepted her answer last time, and they'd platonically slept together since then. Luna wasn't an idiot like he could be, but that brought back the first concern. Was she saying yes because of his status? He wanted to say that wasn't the case, but he couldn't be sure. He'd have to wait and see what Saturday brought. First things first, he had to get the location he wanted squared away. Please don't be having sex with Vortex. Please don't be having sex with Vortex. Please don't be having sex with Vortex, he implored as he picked his phone back up and pressed on B's contact information. First ring. Okay, good sign. That meant she wasn't screwing her boyfriend. At the moment. Naruto cautiously held the phone just a bit away from his ear. Nope, still too loud. Baby bro. Well, she sounded like she was having fun at least. But then, when didn't she? What's up? Already missing your usual goodnight hug from Big Sis B? And here I'd thought after last week you'd gotten past that with a little bit of Beelzebub's aid. Well, it also helps to know how easily I can go to sleep without my ribs feeling like they were crushed. He shot back with a smirk as he leaned back on the bench. The gasp on the other end gave way to snickers. Beach. F off. So, what you want? I'm in the middle of something. You're lucky you caught me at a good time. I appreciate you not telling me what sort of disgusting carnal act you're performing with your toy boyfriend. A lesson he learned early that helped him keep his relative sanity. Always praise his oversharing sister for withholding information. The shirtless Satan incident was not to be repeated if he could help it. Nah, that got boring about 2 hours ago. He's still recovering from the night you stayed out. TMI. Naruto deadpanned. B snorted over the line. You'll jerk off to it. I know I will. The things his sister said to him, Naruto just didn't understand her sometimes. He had to repress those thoughts later and deal with her right now. Nah, I'm redecorating. The lounge needed a new light scheme for the next party night. Cool. That's only, what, the 800th time you've redecorated for one party? You need more hobbies, B. Alright, smartass, then what did you call for? I need access to CHR 15, the garden on Saturday, and a pass for a guest. He could just hunt a meal during a walk there. People still hunted together, right? Or was that the last life's courtship he was thinking about? I mean, sure. What, are you going to record some F action shots for a commercial or something? Yes, Naruto lied expertly. The last thing he needed was for B to know exactly how yesterday went. He may not have won Blitzo over, but he paid him off, and that was a weighty investment from his personal savings. It didn't break the bank, but he wasn't keen on it being lower than the amount it was. Especially if he was going into the dating scene. He'd heard enough of Drunk Vortex's horror stories of the early dates with B. Thoughts of such horror were shunted aside when B snorted. "You're so adorable sometimes." He was not going to dignify that with a response. "All right, sure, I'll get some hours set aside for you. Anything else?" No. Nope. That's pretty much it." "Cool." Oh, she was still on the line and it got quiet. He didn't like where this was going. "So, then, do I have to ask what the F happened yesterday, or am I just eating random F imps off of the street for the next few days until I get the right one?" "Oh, SHT. She knew about it." You watched channel 666 yesterday?" If that was the case, it was a F miracle she hadn't stormed the Gosha compound with hounds and honey at the ready. "No, but I'm going to find the VoxTube video of it to see what the F actually happened. I've gotten messages from F Lucy, of course. Of course it was the F devil himself. F Lucifer kept screwing him over, and it was for no goddamn reason. If ever there was someone Naruto wanted to put in the F dirt more, let them get a F pass so he can put the douchifer in the ground first. About your new business stirring SHT up and interrupting his projects. All he said was that I needed to keep an eye out for imp, whatever the F that means. So, I reiterate, are you going to explain?" "Okay, look, it was a huge misunderstanding and I handled it. It won't happen again." There, the problem was solved. She had no reason to go on a binger. "It's resolved, huh? Just like F that." Pretty much, yeah. Naruto was pretty F sure that as soon as that payoff dwindled to scrap cash, or he got word of their date this Saturday, Blitzo would go on the F war path again. Hence, why the only thing he thought about next was a mantra: buy it, buy it, buy it, buy it, buy it. Okay, so what was the F misunderstanding? Ooh, clever. Damn it, be clever. Think. What is the last thing you should say in this scenario, and then say the opposite of that. The imp thought I kidnapped his daughter, went on a total rampage. I stopped him though there. See, I just saved you like 5 minutes of your free time, so you don't need to watch the video. How'd you stop him? F, what was this? The interrogation hour on Radio Demon Nightly. A little bit of misdirection and, clones. So there wasn't a massive explosion that knocked the camera crew off of their feet. She was watching it right the F now. That cheating beach. F, he couldn't lie his way out of this one. Damn it. Well, now, I didn't say that. Don't go putting words in my mouth. Naru Elzebub. F, no, not the full name. Give me one F reason to leave the imp in this F video alone. If he's still alive, you didn't F take care of it. Try again. Last chance. F. Damn it, that meant he had to tell the truth. Ugh, the ammo she was going to have from this. Naruto slumped back to lay flat on the workout bench and draped an arm over his face. He's the father of the girl I got drunk with and spent the night with. Wait, hold on, what? You got drunk with a girl and spent the night with her? You say that like there wasn't a chance of that happening. Naruto moved his arm to glare at the ceiling. There was silence for once on the other end. He snarled and sat up. Come on, what the FB? I mean, you get hung up on a lot of SHT, baby bro. I thought you got wasted and slept it off with a fellow crybaby. F you. Beach, I would, but you can't handle any of this. Ugh, there is not enough therapy in existence to deal with you. Naruto groaned as B laughed. He rubbed his face and sighed. Look, be honest with me. Show me the same F courtesy and I might. Foo. He swallowed the knee-jerk reaction that he almost spat out. He took a deep breath and worked his jaw. B. Seriously. Do not go on a binger. I handled the imp thing. I'm fine. My charge is fine. No one was hurt. Please, trust me and let me do this. F. Be so F adorable about it. Let it slide, Naruto. There's more at stake right now than your F pride. Just prank her later. B. Unaware of the vengeance that would be F wrought upon her, sighed. Fine, the imp lives. For now. But if anything else happens this week. Please. Naruto scoffed. Nothing will happen. It's the F pride ring. All right. But I'm giving you a serious vibe check when you get home. Sure, whatever, he sighed. And B, thanks for the pass to the garden. Of course, baby bro. B's smile was audible, her sweet nature back in full force. I can't wait to meet that friend of yours you're bringing over. F. He hadn't even thought about that. Before he could argue further, the call ended. He stared at his phone and slumped down onto the weight bench again. F my life. He growled before he raked his fingers over his eyes. No, it's fine, it's all good. There is no F way this week could get any worse. Naruto really needed to learn not to tempt fate. All it did was invoke F karma. Not only was karma a beach, but she came around and bit him in the butt at the worst F time. Friday, literally a day before his date with Luna, Prince Stolas had apparently had enough of his wife's attitude and needed a day out. Normally, Naruto wouldn't give two shits, but his charge was roped into this whole F thing, so now he was going along too. While he could act as SCRT and guard to the two of them by his own F self, he just wasn't being paid enough to. One lesson he remembered from his first life: if you're good at what you do, don't do it for free. Great in theory to make friends and allies, but sucks absolute PP when one of those friends stabs you through the F chest because he has a F chip on his shoulder the size of his fully grown brother. I need to not think about that fuckhead right now. The SHT is Lulu Land anyway, some kind of derivative of Lulu World? He asked, looking at his charge. She had her arms crossed and glowered darkly out of the window of the limousine that was driving them through Imp City toward the place they would SWCH to a less conspicuous ride. Huh, this neighborhood looked familiar. Wait a minute. It's a terribly cheap knockoff that Mammon commissioned. My dad took me there all the F time when I was an owlet. Octavia grumbled, derailing his sudden train of thought. She sounded so excited for this adventure. Hey, that van looks familiar. Oh, right, there's the derailed train, back on track. Why are we at Imp? Naruto asked, looking at Stolas with furrowed brows. Octavia groaned again while Stolas smiled. While you've proven yourself capable of protecting my darling little chick, PSS off, Dad. The chick in question pushed her father's hand away from her face when he tried to pinch her cheek. To his credit, Stolas didn't seem too bothered by the rebuff, not a hint of vibes to be tasted. There is only one hellborn imp that I trust with my body. Dad, oof, that was some hot spicy embarrassment that filled the cabin. Hold on, did he just say? Life, I meant life. Oh, F. Naruto let his mouth drop open at the absolutely sourly sweet vibes that filled the car. He fought against the urge to retch. He was riding with Luna's D. Blitzo's F buddy. Ugh, Stolas, why? Jay, just why? Maybe he'll do that too if I behave. Dad, poor Octavia, wait, what was she doing with her seatbelt? Ugh, F-arg. Wait, don't jump out of the limo before I can got him it. I am going to pluck that girl NDE and strand her in the F street. Naruto growled as he climbed out of the stopped limousine after his distressed charge. He stopped and glared back into the limo at the prince, shoving a claw in his face when he made to follow. No, stay the F put until your bodyguards get here. But, Tevia? You're paying me to watch her. I'm watching her. Got him it. Stay here and reign in your F horny. Naruto roared before he slammed the door shut. He paused and then closed his eyes. The words I hear myself say sometimes. He shook his head and strode after his charge into the office building. He could follow her by the taste of disgust anger, but given how frequent that taste was in hell, it was easier to follow the hurt. It was a spicy sort of bitterness, one that made his stomach churn. He came up to a familiar set of elevators, and a faint whiff of vanilla caught his nose that made him pause. Ugh, if that wasn't F temptation, he didn't know what was. Tomorrow. A small smile on his face, Naruto let his tail WHP about for a second as he passed the lifts by. He sniffed out another sting of bitter and came around a corner to a bench. The young gojo was curled into a ball, arms wrapped around her legs, shoulders jerking here as soft hoots escaped her. This was why he hated babysitting royalty. When SHT hit the fan, parents bailed, and he was left with the cleanup. With a sigh, he sat down beside her and just stared at the wall. She'd talk when she's ready. You don't have to act like you care. Octavia sniffled. I know you're only doing this for a paycheck. True, he nodded. Her flinch told him she was listening. I am only here because I'm getting paid. He pursed his lips, twisted his muzzle, and then growled. There's no way to say this without sounding corny as SHT, so here goes. Your parents aren't paying me to care. Octavia's eyes bored into him, and that sweet little taste of amusement that was uniquely hers wafted into his nose. The soft giggle didn't go unheard either. That was so corny. Hey, you. It made you laugh, didn't it? He challenged, meeting her gaze with an arched eyebrow. She nodded around a sniffle and wiped at her eyes before she stared at her knees again. He cracked a grin and reached over to poke her in the head. Hey, come on, princess. Don't let your dad bum you out. Just because he let his dad dictate his life, does that mean you're going to let him run yours? Are we ditching him? Oh, don't look at him with those eyes. He was half tempted. Thank he was used to such playful pleas coming from Drunkby. As amazing as that adventure would be, and it would be amazing. How amazing. It'd probably spawn a movie franchise that feeds off of the terrible sequel and further worse ones that make the first one look decent. He smirked at the increased amusement and giggles she let out. Anyway, that would result in me actually becoming a... Well. Oh, my life strong, Naruto thought as he and Octavia looked up to see Blitzo walking over. He made that suit work. If only the vibes around him weren't positively rancid. If it isn't the kidnapper. What, my loony wasn't bad enough. You took Stolas' kid after your way into his wife's wallet? Didn't I pay you to leave me alone? Naruto deadpanned. Octavia snorted and he gave her a look from the corner of his eyes. Keep it up, princess, and you'll get a one-way ticket to Bucket City. The cheeky little SHT just smirked at him. Yeah, well, not clearly enough. Naruto arched his brow and he crossed his arms. Blitzo adjusted the sunglasses on his face. Listen, time is money, and the sooner we get in the van, the sooner we can get this trip over with. Why the hell should we? A wisp of white tail fur caught his eye as it headed for the front doors, and the faint vanilla scent got stronger when he scented the air. He was on his feet with Octavia under his arm and half past the imp before either of them knew what happened. Well, come on, then, shits, time is money. WHFU, but I'm not the one loitering with an actual child, Blitzo snapped as he shot past, elbowing the fox fiend in the hip as he did. The second gust of wind seemed to stir Octavia from her stupor. Hey, put me. Naruto pulled the struggling teen out from under his arm just before they reached the door and set her on her feet. His hands stayed on her shoulders as he stared her in the eye. Listen, I will let you act out for 5 minutes at this stupid park just to drive your dad crazy if you give me a few minutes of peace right now. Throw in $50. 25, or I bag and tag you for the day. 10 minutes? 5. Cash up front. You've learned well. Naruto grinned as he pulled the cash out and handed it over to the girl. Had a good teacher. Octavia hummed and counted her take. Always count up front pay in front of the client. Let them know you won't be shafted. Stepped out and spotted exactly why he just bribed her. She looked back at him, then at the hellhound that was glued to her phone, then back and shook her head. Her beak twisted into a small smirk. She's so out of your league. PFFT, I know that. Naruto crossed his arms and glanced at his watch. Clock starts as soon as you get in the van. Whatever. The teenage noble rolled her eyes. Don't take too long getting shot down. Cheeky little. Naruto watched her climb into the back with the other 2 members of Imp, Fa Moxie and Millie, just to immediately tune them out when they tried small talk. A glance showed that Stolas and Blitzo were negotiating, or at least, Blitzo was trying to. Stolas' nasty sour butt thirst was too strong, so he would be fine on that front. With his bases covered, the fox fiend strolled over to the hellhound that was leaning against the rear bumper of the imp van. When Blitzo got a phone call from Stolas that morning, Luna had made sure to clear the workday schedule. The horny owl demon always took priority over potential business because of his importance, or rather his book's importance to their business. He'd requested their team of elite professionals. Luna managed to withhold her laughter, whereas Fatty and Millie failed to do the same to act as his bodyguards while he and his daughter went to some theme park. Given that they were a group of assassins, the request confused them. Then Stolas brought up the possibility of lucrative pay, and Blitzo, with a decision that was not only justified, but also really smart, accepted the job. Now, Luna would normally use the opportunity to pass as a freebie to do whatever she wanted today. But when it connected to her what day of the week it was and how long it was until her date tomorrow, she offered to tag along as extra muscle. At half pay, Blitzo, always being the same annoyance to her whenever she participated as part of the company, was over the moon and didn't even question it. She wondered how long the peace would last until he connected the dots. Satan's non-existent mercy. Please let him be oblivious until they get on the road, she thought as she turned the page in an old copy of Vague that had an exclusive interview with a certain fox fiend. The answers were pretty apt for the magazine in question, probably a prank on his part. She huffed softly at one question's answer. Favorite color? Why? Who wants to know? Someone that wants to impersonate me? I'm not a artist. I like the rainbow equally. What you gonna do with that? As she kept reading through the increasingly obvious prank on all of Hell's inhabitants that enjoyed this drivel, Millie and Fatty were going over last-minute weapon checks when Blitzo kicked the door to his office open. He had a nice suit on and had donned a pair of shades. Was this one of those kinds of jobs? She might have to change out of her clothes into something more professional. Yeah, that. All right, beaches. Blitzo grabbed his sniper rifle and bag of supplies. He jammed the rifle crudely into the sack and then shoved the bag into Fatty's arms. Stola's ride is here, and we need to be downstairs an hour ago. Millie, go prep the van. Moxie, pack the van and move the protectee. Looney, you sure about coming with us today? Yeah, sure. I've got nothing else going on today, she admitted with a shrug as she put her magazine into her desk. The look of absolute bafflement on Fatty's face was hysterical. All right, well, I want you to lock up everything. He tossed the office keys to her that she caught with ease. Oh, hey, he wanted her to triple-check his office safe. Blitzo was taking this seriously. He looked at the other two imps and pointed at the door. What are you two shitbirds gawking at? Move. I'm not paying you idiots to sit around looking good. Luna shook her head and started locking up, checking Blitzo's safe hidden behind the old poster of him and his sister Barbie wire. Then his windows. He always forgot to get the windows before moving from his office to the grander office. It was 5 minutes later that she finally descended the elevator. The same violet and almost but not coconut smell was nearby, and her tail started to wag until Luna heard Blitzo talking SHT out of his butt of a mouth to her left. She spotted some orange out of the corner of her eye, and, though the temptation to go over there was strong, she decided to avoid ruining the peace Blitzo gave her. She parked herself on the bumper of the van and pulled her phone out to check the latest Voxtagram posts. Her ear perked up when the door to their office building chimed, and she kept her tail still as that sweet violet, almost not coconut combination got stronger until it practically smothered her. He was warm. She felt his presence a second before his shoulder brushed against hers when he leaned on the van beside her. How's it going? Another day, same shitty life. You? Well, mine's gotten better. Recently, in fact. She glanced up at the bright grin on his face. He was flirting. No, tail, do not wag. Don't do it. It was bad enough her ears folded back after heat rushed to them. With her. You need to work on your material. Are you offering to help? Calm down, calm down, calm down. But she wanted to say yes so bad. She really wanted to. He smelled really good and, thank he was also restraining his tail. The soft thumps against the van's tail light proved it. Rather than get caught in a stare-off while Blitzo was right there in prime up position, she cracked a small smile and she looked back at her phone. Maybe tomorrow. She brushed some hair out of her eyes as her head dipped down. He huffed a short laugh and SHT did Luna have to fight to keep her tail still. That sound was so genuine and, his scent made her mouth water. A sharp snap from around the corner reminded her that clamjammer that was Blitzo was in earshot. Keep it cool, Luna. Don't get yourself grounded. Hey, about tomorrow. She looked up to meet his gaze. If he wanted her to focus, he had to stop scratching his head like that. That just reminded her of the hotel morning incident she vaguely remembered and always made her kind of drift off to imagine further details. Yeah? I want to make sure you're... He took a second to lower his arm. Thank you. You stupidly attractive fox fiend, and worked his jaw. His two blue eyes held her gaze. You know you can say no, right? What the actual SHT? Her tail went still and her ears shot up. Well, he had her attention right now. Was he just with her? Is this a GG or was the text one? What? Luna growled. She lowered her phone and glared into his eyes. Why did his ears flatten? Was he actually scared of her? Was he patronizing her? Are you joking right now? No, I do. I'm all for the date. Naruto hushed the word. His eyes darted at the corner of the van Blitzo. As per usual, he already did something that wigged out the guy she was interested in before he looked at her again. He hesitated and his eyes drifted away while a claw scratched the marks on his cheek. I wanted to make sure you didn't feel forced to. Or I'm pretty good at reading people, and you don't seem like the type to SHT. I'm not trying to say I'd ever think you're shallow FISCK at this. His shoulders slumped and his head hung by the end of the tirade. Looks like she wasn't the only one that was worried about the whole status thing. She gently reached out, but stopped because what the was she doing? His insecurities weren't her issue. She didn't need to hold his hand figuratively or literally, even if she really wouldn't mind doing the latter, or more breach his personal space to talk to him. Still, she could tell that he was open to it. His throat was displayed, his arms were limp, his adorable as tail hadn't wriggled in at least 50 seconds, which should be a crime. Assured by her read of his posture, she worked with assassins and grew up in a troubled kids' orphanage. She knew body language. She powered through and put a hand on his arm. Immediately, his goddamn blue eyes focused back on her plain red and her knees went weak. His nostrils flared, scenting her. He was scenting her. That did something for her on a base level, and he tensed at her touch. She had his attention and she wanted to keep it. Did I stutter? No? No. She smirked and pushed his arm. Then, she leaned back and crossed her arms. So tomorrow. Oh, no, not that smile. FSHT but. Her insides were already so out of whack from the past 2 minutes, and her knees were going to give out. And yep, fuckity SHTF, there was the same goddamn meltdown that happened the last time she saw this smile. Tomorrow. His voice was lower and his blue eyes seemed just brighter and his scent was just so good and was he getting closer? She felt the faint warmth of his breath on her face. There was a hint of salt there and some kind of sweet hint. Oh, was this happening? SHT, did her makeup look good? She should have touched it up before she finished locking up. Was her breath okay? His was fine. No, it was great. He's so close. She could smell her own breath as it mingled with his and damn it, that's so hot. Except his nose isn't. Their noses were touching. Their noses were touching and his was just as cold as hers was, maybe more. It felt great. This was happening. This was happening. This was happening and Luna was so okay with it. Looney, come on. Get in the what the are you doing back here? Typical. Luna snarled and rounded on Blitzo with the full intent to vacate his position within the immediate murder professional staff. A gentle clawed hand curled around her shoulder and she withheld herself from the attack she was fully prepared to act on. A warm muzzle brushed against the notch in her ear. Oh, that felt so good. He had to do that again. Luna would insist on it, and a rumble emitted from his chest. It almost drowned out Blitzo's demand that he get the away, and somehow made the imp freeze in place when the rumble rose to a tingling body-shaking volume. Then it quieted and her mind cleared. Tomorrow. The hushed repeat was accompanied by a soft squeeze on her shoulder. It was more than a reassurance, it was a promise. One she'd hold him to. The haze of fury bled away into a cool, simmering anger. Right, okay. Tomorrow. Luna let her hackles drop a bit, and she huffed before she very reluctantly pulled away from the fox fiend to get in the van. She climbed into the passenger seat and glared into the mirror at the smirks on her coworkers' faces. The are you two shits smirking at? Nothin', Millie F sucked at lying. The F giggle that followed only cemented that. He's so out of your league, Fatty sighed. Luna snarled at him and she clutched her arms. Insensitive little SHT, she already F knew that. Stola's brat, who looked as thrilled to be here as Luna normally would feel, snorted. That's what I said about her. All right, that was flattering. Luna tipped her head slightly to that when their eyes met in the mirror and then glanced at the prince, who shifted in his seat. He gave her a weak smile and a thought occurred to her. Hey, your majesty. What's the whole section about hellhounds lacking magic about? Oh, it's an incomplete sect I never finished transcribing before my grimoire was filled. Wait, have you been reading it? Someone has to operate the portal for these idiots. Luna nodded at Millie and her fatty. She flexed her claws and then turned in her seat to look him in the eye. So, what gives? Is there more? It's a very old study, I admit, but pretty accurate for most purposes. The way he held her gaze had her a little unnerved. His head tilted and he smiled, even as his emissive red eyes narrowed. You must be Blitzy's Looney Tooney he likes to go on about. It's such a pleasure to meet you. An NND, this conversation is over. Luna decided, whipping back around to start staring at her phone. She would light a smoke, but they were on the clock and the fatty always got so uppity whenever she lit one up in the office. Blitzo caught his breath from the strange feeling that overcame him, only to lose it again when an orange hand wrapped around his throat and he was slammed into the back of his company van. Oh, what the F, shitstain, he glared at the assailant. Oh, SHT, right, it's the same fucker that kidnapped his loony. He'd caught them in the middle of this fucker was dead, fat wallet or not. Blitzo grabbed the wrist that held him aloft and struggled to break the hold. I'm going to rip you a F new one, you child molesting, oversized. Unholy SHT, what the F is that feeling? The fire? The fire. The fire was everywhere. Fizz, where was Fizz? Where were the horses? Where was Mom and Barbie? He was back outside the office, breathing fast, staring into two white voids. Oh, right. The kidnapper TWKF was also apparently a Duke of Hell, right? Those guys tended to have weird powers or some SHT. And considering how real that felt F, this guy might have time travel or some SHT. Blitzo did not want to relive that night. Not when he was this F sober. Are you listening now, or do I need to look for something else to get your F attention? With a growl, Blitzo reluctantly nodded. The prick kidnapper F narrowed his glowing eyes and bared F teeth at him. Good, considering the F stacks I dropped on you last week. You should be F listening to me right the F now. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to shut the F up about what you just saw. No, I am F talking right now, imp. So listen. Okay, well, that was the tone sick noble fucks tended to have whenever they got classist and murdery. Blitzo didn't fear death, but he wasn't F ready for it and didn't get this far in life by tempting fate. A glistening black claw pressed on Blitzo's chest. You're going to let what happened slide, you're going to get your little red butt in the F van, and you're going to do the F job that Stolas hired you for. He was released and fell to the ground. Blitzo hacked to catch his breath, but he was hefted back up to his knees by that same F spine that was super sensitive. How the F did this son of a bitch even know about that? That's the second time he snagged it so easily, and glared at by blue eyes. If you hassle Luna about this SHT, I will end your career on the F spot. Do you understand me, Blitzo Buxo? How the F do you know that name? I'm the Duke of Gluttony, dumbass. F figure it out. Then his spine was released and the back door of the van popped open. Blitzo whipped around to glare and growl at the Duke, who was half in the van. He stopped and glared down at him. I'll sit as far the F away from you as I can. Try to show me the same courtesy. The back door slammed shut. Don't do me any F favors, but... Blitzo snapped as he got to his feet and dusted himself off. He scowled. F needs to stay the F away from my loony. All those F nobles are the F same. Use M and lose M, F typical. As much as he hated to admit it, the kidnapper F had a point. He had a job to do and he'd do it. After, though, he was going to make sure Looney stayed the F away from that PD flea butt. He scowled and walked awkwardly to the van's driver's seat. F-er would be a F9 if he wasn't into my little girl. Got him it, now I'm horny and angry. He scowled and climbed into the van, grumbling under his breath. He checked the mirrors, glanced at Luna, she was staring at her phone, and growled when she caught him staring. Good, she still had her game face on, and then the rest of the group. Alright, F'ers, are we ready for a good time? Where to? Stolas? He gave a grin to the noble, pointedly ignoring the giant as F kidnapper in the back of his van. DMN, he looked even bigger compared to the rest of the assholes in here. Wait, that was horny Blitzo talking. Focus, Stolas is here, and he'll probably be down for a quickie if they can swing it. Lululand, if you'd please, Blitzy. Lululand, he and Millie repeated. He glared at Millie's too wide of a smile and then at Stolas. I'm sorry, I must have misheard you. You meant Lulu World, right? Nope, Lululand. My daughter and I have such darling memories of visiting Lord Mammon's park, don't we, Tavia? F kill me. Preach, kid, preach. Are you sure you don't want to upgrade? Blitzo smiled weakly. He would so rather not have an angry bathroom F with Stolas at that F theme park. Blitzo, please take us to Lululand. Stolas repeated. A certain weight was in his request. Ugh, this fucker wanted to bottom sometime today at the worst F place in the underworld, didn't he? F fine, Blitzo growled as he shifted out of park. You're only a F prince, I'd figure you'd have better F taste. Don't we all? Every F-breathing individual in the van outside of himself and Stolas muttered. Wait, if all of them said it, that was a lot of shared looks between Millie and Moxie, and Stolas' brat and her fuckwad of a bodyguard, while Luna smiled after she glanced up at the mirror. The F was that about? Except for him and Stolas. Oh, those bastards were talking about him, weren't they? He floored the gas and looked into the back to glare at everyone. Luna was just following a joke. She was exempt that spoke up. What the F is that supposed to mean? Blitzy, the road. Please watch the road. Oh, we're fine. Incoming tree, dead ahead. The noble F he hated on principle deadpanned. No there SHT. Blitzo swerved to avoid the sudden F tree that had sprouted out of the road. He leaned out the window to cuss at that couple. You've got 6 months until Cynismas. F wait until last minute like the rest of us. This might be a better ride than anything at that F park. Stolas' brat grumbled around a smirk. Well, at least the kid had taste. She turned in her seat to address her bodyguard. $10 we hit someone pulling into the lot. Hey, F you brat, sit down. Blitzo glared at the girl. He did not need the pointless fuckwad to get any sort of airtime on his F job. Retiree, crossing the street. Luna warned dryly. Wah got him it. Blitzo swerved again and glared at the cursing old imp that he almost dinged. Once more, he leaned out the window. You count your lucky stars, my daughter cares more about your life than I do. Bold assumption. Luna scoffed. I'd rather not spend more of the F budget for repairs on the van. Again. Stolas' brat and her +1 snorted. Blitzo scowled at them and focused on driving to his least favorite place in existence. That was Moxie's fault, and that's why he isn't F driving. You had a gun in my face and were holding my wife hostage. Wait, are you F serious? Got him it, Moxie. Do not give that fucker any more ammo than he already had. The noble fuckwad's ears were up and he leaned over the back seat to look at Millie. And you still work for this butt? I mean, he didn't actually do much, just winged me and sat on me. I've had a lot worse working on the farm back home. Thank you, Millie. You are so getting a F pay raise, and Moxie, consequently, was getting docked. Heh, business savvy, you come in yet again to make things work in Blitzo's favor. Then the little imp beach turned to smile at him. So, Lord Naru. Ugh, please don't. If you're not going to cuss me out, just call me Naruto. I'm on the clock, just like you. But we're, whatever the F Moxie was going to say was drowned out by Millie's laugh. Well, ain't that mighty relaxed of ya? Course, I shouldn't be too surprised. Ya did deliver us coffee that one time. That's right, I did do that. Who the F was he smiling at in the mirror? Blitzo gave him a middle finger without taking his eyes off of the road. Take that, but. I think I've made more money doing that than babysitting the princess here. F off. You tell him, kiddo. Octavia, please mind your manners while we're in public. The last thing we need is for your mother to catch wind of an unsavory rumor. Stolas rolled his eyes. Rough, pal, marrying a total frigid beach that looked like a F knockout. Blitzo bet she'd peg if asked. Yeah, that's what Mom will be pissed about. My foul mouth. Huh, wonder what that's about. Meh, not important. There was a truck merging into his lane. F blinkers, but use 'em. Ugh, Blitzo hated Friday traffic in pride. Well, that could have gone F worse. Naruto muttered as he and Luna sat atop the imp van to watch Lululand burn. The second they arrived, he sent clones with Stolas and Octavia and looked around himself. It was exactly what Octavia implied it to be. Outside of his extravagant concerts and contests, Mammon's SHT was always a joke and a half. A few centuries back, he and B had a gas coming up with terrible products they never planned to sell, pretend to patent them through greed's finance offices, and laugh themselves silly when the obvious knockoffs were marketed a month ahead of the official product's launch dates. The cost of fruitless endeavors such as that always pissed the sin of greed off something fierce. You don't think destroying the property of a sin is bad? Luna asked, lowering her phone from where it had been held up to record the destruction. Nah, Mammon's SHT always expires fast. Made cheap to make profit, I guess. He shrugged. He glanced at her and his tail started to wriggle. He quickly adjusted himself to sit on it. So, about tomorrow. I swear, Luna turned to frown at him, red eyes slowly glowing. I told you that I was... No, I got that. He chuckled and leaned back on his palms to look up at the sky. When do you want me to pick you up and where? You've got a car. I could get one. Legally or not was up to decide later. It wasn't like there was a strict legal system down here. He shrugged as he looked at her pretty red eyes. But I figured you'd want to be more discreet about it. I was thinking I'd use the house seal to pick you up. Oh. There was a soft thump 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 before her tail went still. So F cute. She played with her hair for a minute before she brushed it out of her face. I don't know, I guess a block or so outside of Hotheads is an alley. We walked past it on, my birthday. That'd work. 9? Naruto fought off the grimace his tail almost caused when it strained to wriggle against his butt and his eye twitched. Calm down. We're ironing out details. Be ecstatic later. Yeah, that's cool. Her lips pulled back into a little smile and she looked back at her phone. FSHT, she was so cute. And her hips from this angle were whoa there, hold on. That awesome familiar but not vibe was back with a F vengeance. Dare he risk taking a second to figure it out? Might as well. He took a deep breath in. Ah, there you are, Lord Naruto. And immediately lost the scent when Stolas walked over to the van with Octavia in his arms. Naruto stared at them with flared nostrils for a second, and then glared over at one clone that popped up from a flaming piece of wreckage, with an employee in an apple suit in his arms. Oh, okay, so they were playing rescue. Fine, whatever. He rolled his head back over to Luna, opened his mouth to say something and oh, that train of thought not just derailed, it took the whole F-line with it. Her hands were not just calloused, but soft and her vanilla scent was just amazing. Her crimson eyes were half-lidded and her lips were still curled up into her cute as F little smile. Her claws grazed along his snout and tickled the sensitive nodes near his nose. F, that felt amazing. Tomorrow. The soft utterance was a promise and demand at once. Her nose pushed on his and he just forgot how to breathe. Took a second to remember that and where he was. What realm is this again? Hell? Certainly not, because hell was supposed to be absent of angels. But the creature in front of him definitely was nothing less than. Yeah. His tail slipped free and he couldn't give two shits who saw it wriggle. He leaned into the cool press of her nose against his and almost dared to let his eyes fall shut. Tomorrow. Reluctantly, they pulled away. Their tails thumped the van for a moment before Naruto sighed and rolled off of his perch. He landed on his feet and arched a brow at the face Stolas made. His beak was pinched, his lips wobbled and his emissive red eyes seemed to curl. The F are you staring at? Puppy love. Every lesson in life, both this one and the last, became second to the one he learned on his first venture out of the village those many years ago. A mission in which he traveled with his friend turned traitor turned killer. The loud crush who didn't reciprocate and made sure he knew it, Kakashi sensei, and the drunk off his butt, foul-mouthed, egotistical bridge builder. It was there his sensei almost had to PND into his head the very important rule about SCRT missions. Do not shut your client. Do not shut your client. Do not shut your client. Even now, the struggle was real. Wear something comfortable. Luna adjusted the sleeve on her arm and checked the fit of the top in her mirror. It was a long-sleeved halter that had a small pentagram in the window over her chest. Her brow furrowed and her lips twisted. It fits fine, but ... it wasn't comfortable. Well, it was comfortable, if just a bit snug around her sides, but that probably wasn't what he was going for. Ugh, was it supposed to imply something sexy? Something loose? Because that's so F-specific, she growled and tossed the top across the room. A clawed hand raked down over her face as she tried to calm down. Ugh, I should have asked him yesterday. Wait, I'm overcomplicating this. She grabbed her phone and fired off a text asking for specifics. There was still an hour before she was supposed to meet him at Hotheads, and that was only a 10-minute walk from Blitzo's apartment. That left her with more than enough time to find her outfit for the date, do her makeup so it doesn't look shitty, and get a latte. Granted, that all depended on long as there's a timely and cue the soft wine. Something that's comfortable and you aren't afraid to rip. Luna's ears shot up and her eyes went wide. What? What the SHT was he planning? This was got him, it was the first date. She'd figured he'd be at least willing to wait one date. Although, given how her birthday ended and it wasn't an embrace, exactly, but their noses touched, so what does she call it? A boop, F it? Boop yesterday, maybe this was par for the course. It wasn't like she was entirely opposed to it, either, but Luna wanted more than just a one-date romp. Oh, another text. Not like that, we'll be outside. That didn't help improve her opinion of the situation in the slightest. This all sounds worse the more I type. Luna snorted. Well, at least he wasn't clueless. She sat on the edge of her bed and sent a quick response. There, that should help him calm down. What are we doing outside? Exactly? Well, part of it is a surprise. She let out a huff of breath through her nose. For a member of the ruling house of sin over a certain ring, this boy could be so maddeningly unhelpful. At least she had a feeling it wasn't meant to be an innuendo. Proven in 3, 2, 1. Not like that. There it is. I was thinking I could take you on a hunt in Gluttony. At least for lunch. Hunt. Luna felt her tail start to wag and gained a small smile. Okay, yeah, she's up to hunt. She knew exactly what to wear for that. She hopped off her bed and started to tear through her dresser. All she had to find was perfect. Pulled up over her leggings were a pair of ripped shorts she got last summer, and then for the shirt. Did she still have? Yes. She grinned as she pulled on her low-cut Savage shirt. Now, all she needed to do was find her collar, maybe something other than her spiked one. Didn't she have a tagged collar somewhere? Touch up her makeup and get her wallet before. Wow, Looney, what's got you up and dressed so early? Before Blitzo woke up and saw her, heading out for coffee. She bit out, quick to first silence and then tuck her phone into her pocket. The last thing she needed was for him to think she was meeting up with Naruto. She was, but she didn't want him to know that. Oh, gimme 20 and I'll come with. I could use a good iced. Blitzo stopped and peered into her room. She followed his gaze for a second before she looked back and growled at him for invading her personal space. Oh, doing some rearranging? You need a hand? No. Now, get out, she snarled and swiped at him. He jumped back and held his hands up. Whoa, easy there, Looney. Blitzo laughed. A bead of sweat fell past his now more awake eyes. I won't go in your space, I haven't since You barged into my room on my 21st birthday? She narrowed her eyes at him. Yes, that. Blitzo nodded slowly. Her lip curled up and she bared some teeth. What day was that, Blitzo? Ooh, last Thursday? He took another step back when she advanced on him with a snarl. Stay. The F. Out. Okay, sure, yes. Do you need the bathroom? Because I have to take a wicked SH. Luna snarled and lunged at him again. He yelped and darted into the restroom and locked the door. Good, but she could be more certain he wouldn't bother her. She reached over to grab one of the kitchen island chairs and jammed it under the bathroom doorknob. From the sounds of scraping, I take it you've blocked the bathroom door again, Luna. Luna didn't even dignify him with a response as she went back to her room and grabbed the small makeup kit that was there. She was not letting him ruin this day for her. Not after all the effort she took to keep it from him yesterday. Which, admittedly, wasn't very strong. He basically had her sit in the van for the whole thing to keep anyone from trying to mess with it. At least halfway through, Naruto came back to keep her company while his clones, and that was something she wanted to ask him about. For purposefully innocent reasons, of course, protected the Gosha prince and his kid. Then the boop. Luna shook her head and focused. She checked her phone. She had 15 minutes to get ready. She had to finish her makeup and then maybe have time to find that collar. Blitzo's inane being took up most of her time. She just had to make do with what she's got. 20 minutes later, a wasted 5 looking for a collar that when prompted by a snarled knock Blitzo admitted to throwing out. Thinking it was one of his exes, Luna grabbed her wallet and went out the door. "Have a good day, Blitzo," she snarled. "Wait, Looney, bring me back an iced macchiato with maple." The door was slammed before he could finish speaking, and she practically threw herself down the stairs. She looked at her phone and cursed. There wasn't even going to be time for a latte at this rate. Hey, I'm at Hotheads. Got thirsty. You want anything? Luna was going to marry this guy after she his brains out. Her snarl dropped from her lips, her tail began to wag, and her run slowed into a casual stroll as she sent an order his way. "Vanilla latte, size doesn't matter." "Well, that's good to know." She so wasn't ready for that sort of cheese. Her ears burned, and she checked the street sign as she crossed to another block. 10 minutes out, sorry for the wait. You're good. See you in a bit. Luna felt her tail swish wildly as she walked and pocketed her phone. She'd talked to him in person once she got to Hothead's cafe. She clocked a pickpocket across the jaw just as he made to bump into her and snag her wallet. She glared at the group that followed him out of the corner of her eyes. Just try it. She was walking on air the rest of the way to Hothead's cafe. If a few other bodies were dropped along the way, well, that was their problem then, wasn't it? This building. VERYYYY looked pointed at a location on the map of the ring she was looking to move her label into. Not only was it a step closer to getting to the end-all, be-all of succubi goals, but it would rankle the actual out of her ex something fierce. She licked one of her fangs and then bit into her lip. This building is perfect. Really? Kiki asked, an eyebrow arched as she crossed her arms. Yeah, I dunno. What's the purpose of moving to Pride? It's just a giant fucking slum. Josh hummed as he rubbed his chin. He leaned against Ace, who wrapped an arm around his shoulders. Like, even if it's Imp City, it's still... Yeah, I'm with Josh, Apple added from where she sat behind Coco, combing her hair. Imp City is a bundle of Ike. Can't we just move here? I'm sure B could hook us up with F-bomb real estate. Apple, Milky sighed and rubbed her temples. Gluttony is a giant F jungle. Do you know what's in the jungle? No. Exactly. None of us know what the F is out in that jungle. I think Tex might, Coco pointed out. He's still exhausted from entertaining the queen bee. Kiki shook her head. Like, almost drained after the free roofie night backfired. That was a fun little experiment. We should try that again. Milky grinned as the others tittered. Sluts, focus. VERYYYY leaned forward over the table, partially to flaunt her cleavage in a show of domination, and partially to show how serious she was. B's little snack has been spending more and more time in Pride. If I want his F card, I need to be in Pride. If you want in on that slice of cake, you're gonna follow me. Yeah, fine. Ugh, okay? Twist our nips, why don't you? Speaking of our future naughty treat, Ace grinned and started to investigate his nails. Guess who happened to overhear him and B talking about a possible stroll this morning while he was making a supply run? When and where? VERYYYY asked, giving him her full attention. She'd been unable to keep tabs on the version until he came home from his bodyguard gig. Since then B had been keeping him busy in the most boring ways possible, by having him and his amazing duplication magic jump from room to help her remodeling. Great eye candy without any chance of getting treats, as was part of her arrangement. Until they'd gotten their new office sorted out, and unless he made a pass at her, VERYYYY had to leave him with B. The queen bee was basically forcing her into edging, the conniving, somewhere called the garden. Now wouldn't that make for an ironic place for a V card to be lost? Ace asked, grinning back at her. Josh cooed and patted his partner on the chest before leaning up to share a deep embrace. I've never heard of the garden. VERYYYY hummed. She pulled out the map for gluttony they had and rolled it open. Outside of Beelzebub Manor and the gutted city, there were no marked locations on it. There was a series of lines that separated portions of forest into different sectors, and she frowned. She tilted her head and looked around the small portion that had a spiral next to its number, 15. Probably here. What makes you? Every post on social media about this hunk has a spiral somewhere by it. Small place, but far? Kiki hummed as she leaned in beside her. You'd have to go through 5 miles of wood to get there. V, before you get any crazy ideas, I am not getting lost in the woods today. Milky deadpanned. V sighed as more of her crew started to murmur their agreement. All right, fine. Then we stick with my plan. We move to the Pride Ring, and from there, we corner him and strike. Dom play on a version? That's so KNKY, V, Coco teased. VERYYYY leaned back on her heel while she flicked her hair. Yes, well, we might as well start him somewhere. She smirked and pushed the map aside to point at the building. I want to be in that building before the end of the month. Everyone clear on that? Good. Seated at the small island in her manor's kitchen, Beelzebub crunched down on a bowl that once held the special Beel's Mix Dip 4 for her sinister Snackums corn chips. The familiar taste of her honey was too strong for the whole bag of crunchy goodness. She took another large chomp out of the bowl before she tossed the last of it down, and she swallowed. She pursed her lips and groaned. I just can't taste it. F. There was a reason she had her baby bro, boyfriend, or any other unwilling partygoer sample her SHT. She drummed one hand's fingers on the table while another whipped up a confection that emulated a corn dog. That was gone nearly just as fast. She scowled again and let her head rest on the counter. Ugh, I'm so bored. A soft whirl of familiar magical essence that felt only just off along with a flood of sweet-smelling vibes suddenly drifted into the room. One was extremely familiar and the other not. Her boredom suddenly vanished and an idea struck. Pulling the smile off of her face, she closed her eyes. If she could just get her wings to stop there we go. And now tease. Can't party yet. Too early and short notice. Can't experiment with Beelzejuice. Running low on resources. Can't F-text because I think broke him. God damn it. Beelzebub started snickering at the defeat in her baby bro's voice. Seriously, get it F-hobby. I have a boyfriend for that. You should try it yourself sometime. B smirked before she spun on her seat to grin at oh, hello. She was out of her seat and in the new hellhound's face, scenting her as she memorized every detail. Vanilla and a lot of it, along with caffeine and a serious case of daddy issues. Oh, and she's not vaxxed yet either. Interesting. Oh, aren't you cute? Thanks. Aw, bashfulness was so delicious from the uninitiated, super cute, and young, too. Ooh, baby bro growled and wow, that was a lot of mutual attraction between them. Ugh, she was going to get an F cavity. This was too sweet. Baby bro gave her a pointed glare. This is Luna, from Pride. Oh, no, she was a shelter pup. Poor thing hello F delicious swell of adoration that came out of F nowhere. Baby bro, what? Oh, gosh, the way he was smiling at this pup Luna, right? She had to commit that name to memory. How did he get attached so fast to this little stray? Luna, this is my sister, Beelzebub. Ah, the full name. That was him trying to warn her from doing anything underhanded or embarrassing. Shame he never got the handbook on how to be an older sibling, not that she did, either, but she watched enough TV during a digest day to have a good idea. So he was going to be sorely disappointed. Oh well, sucks for him. Nice to meet you, B grinned and cupped her chin with one set of arms while the other rested her hands on her hips. Her lower left hand snapped its fingers and pointed at her accessory. I dig your collar. You too, to meet you, I mean. And thanks. You're hot? Ugh. Luna grimaced and hid her eyes into a hand. Baby bro gave her a flat stare and B shrugged. What? It wasn't her fault that he brought someone that was at least bi-curious into her house? Yeah, I get that a lot. So, you two are heading over to the garden, HM? B asked. Luna was avoiding looking at her, but kept an ear on baby bro. Oh, that's promising. She grinned at baby bro while he massaged his temples. Gonna go fertilize some crops? Party foul, baby bro snapped around a low growl while Luna's brow furrowed. Ooh, B was getting some serious F mileage out of this little arrangement. Fertile what the F? Luna asked with a scowl. Hey, little stray's got some bite. She just keeps getting more and more interesting. Who F says that to someone they just met? Hi, Beelzebub, queen of parties, jackasses and gluttony. Nice to meet you. She joked with a laugh. Neither of them laughed, but they weren't disgusted, so that was a plus. She shook her head before either thought she wasn't taking this seriously. For real, though, don't do anything too risky out there, baby bro. And bring me some steaks or something. I'm hungry, yeah I can guess. He snorted and stepped forward to hold a clawed hand out. His tail lashed once behind him and a low growl sounded in the room. Woof, he had to ease back on the DMNCE display before she started feeling challenged again. Her manner couldn't handle that SHT, little Luna here probably wouldn't survive it. The pass? No. Better idea. B sidestepped him to get back in Luna's face, now she was growling. Good, she was, feisty. And she took hold of Luna's arm in two hands, before she held a third over the back of her hand. Her eyes bled red and her essence spread around the hellhound, going into the stray's system to wait. What the F? What the F? B blinked and her opening ceremony ended. She looked down at her hands, then at Luna's, and then up at the hellhound's face. She grabbed the hellhound's shoulders and moved in again to get a vibe check. Bitter tastes of confusion and disquiet were accented by a sour sprinkle of fear, and there was a faint hint of B. Baby bro's snarl shook the room and B found herself hauled off scruff. F. Oh, not okay, not cool. Get the F off of me right F now. The demand was heated and B found herself back by the table. She snarled at her attacker and he snarled right back. You want to challenge me in my own F home? Again? We do not. Vibe check. Hellhounds. Baby bro stood directly in front of the stray. His true form bled into restriction, but he withheld himself from letting so. She snarled at the insult. Did he think he was stronger than her? Better than her? He pointed a chitonic finger at her as he bared his teeth. He hissed at her. His vibe filled the air with anger, hurt, defiance, and a plea. He was submitting, not challenging. Your house rules, B. Not mine. Just give me the pass, and we'll go. Fine. B pulled herself together and exhaled. She flicked a ring of honey into existence, and it solidified into a band. She flicked it over to her baby bro, and then went back to her seat at the table. There. Have fun. B manifested a new bowl of dip 4 and a fresh bag of sinister Snakeums corn chips. She had only just started on them when a hand rested on her shoulder. Weren't you leaving? In a minute. He squeezed her shoulder. I'm sorry, I'll explain when I come home. Go have fun before I decide you need another butt whooping. B warned around a handful of Snakeums. She was still rankled by the disrespect that wasn't, and the fact her opening ceremony apparently wasn't needed. A whirl of emotions filtered out with the activation of another house seal. TCH, ungrateful little SHT. Could have told me she was already using Goshen magic before I tried to unlock her core. How the F was I supposed to know she was naturally gifted? B grumbled. She inhaled another 2 handfuls of chips and dip before she sighed and propped her head up by the chin with her upper right hand. I better get to F name one of the pups from their first litter. The blinding iridescent flash of B's house seal bled away to reveal a forest of blue-barked trees surrounding them in a clearing. The few stags that had been here likely immediately bolted once the house seal appeared. That wasn't the thing Naruto was most concerned with at the moment. What the F was that? Luna rounded on him as soon as they arrived in the garden, her scent laced with all sorts of sour and bitter-tasting vibes. Which, fair, getting a vibe check from B was akin to her plucking at your emotions from the very place they originated from. The only reason he was so okay with it was because he mostly grew up here with it. When he was younger, it was a more casual thing, gentle brushes to gauge how he felt. It's why they were so touchy-feely as siblings. A terrible F start to a first date. Naruto sighed and dragged a clawed hand down his face, an uncomfortable blaze swelling in his gut behind where his navel would be if he had one. He'd almost busted his true form out over a stupid altercation, and that was definitely a no-go when near a minor class demon like Luna. Yeah, no SHT, she snarled as she crossed her arms. She growled again as her hackles remained way up. F. That was so not okay. I know. It wasn't part of my F plan either, alright? Naruto growled at her. She rounded to glare at him, and he forced himself to turn his glower to his palms as he craned his head back to the golden hexagonal sky, before his claws raked over his eyes. In her own ring of domain, she probably had eyes on him, watching him even now, to see if he was going to act out against her. Just thinking about it really made his tail lash. He needed to calm down. From the taste around her, Luna did, too. He swallowed the vitriol that sat in his mouth and looked back at the grumbling hellhound. Luna. The F do you want? To calm down. I am calm. I want to calm down, got him it. Naruto snarled from the spicy anger and hurt that should never have been there. He was all sorts of out of it. Things were pushing on his self-control and needed to get out, needed to be free, needed to des. He rounded on the ball of his foot and threw his arm across the air with a roar. A trinity of trees suddenly found themselves cleaved down, and he huffed before he looked at the now quiet hellhound over his shoulder. Her eyes were wide and her tail was still behind her legs. F. He groaned into his hand again. Calm down. It's fine, you didn't screw up permanently yet. Please not have screwed up permanently yet. He took a deep breath and then offered the same hand. He just dragged down his face to the hellhound in question. What? Please. Just take my hand. And trust me. After some deliberation that included a quick flash of teeth and a flick of her tail, a justified warning, she slipped her hand into his. A gentle tug and swift placement on his part had him putting the tip of his nose against hers when she stepped closer. Nirvana had never come to him so easily as it did when they pressed their noses together. Her sweet vanilla scent would fill his snout and overwhelm any lingering bad vibes in the air, aside from the familiar, but not vibe he still couldn't place that tacked onto her natural scent. The swelling heat in his gut dropped to a cool simmer before it vanished entirely. The lash of his tail turned into a consistent wriggle, and his chest started to rumble as if one of his sweet spots was getting scratched. Luna's hackles fell as her subsonic growls quelled, which allowed him to hear the whoosh 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 of her tail. He cracked his eyes open to meet the same half-lidded gaze on her face that was likely on his own. That familiar but not scent just got mixed with something sour. Lust? NBLD? Her claws were cutting through his old as F Mr. Chainsaw shirt into his lats. Oh, okay, that makes sense. As long as he wasn't hurting her curvy hips. Whoa, down boy. Date 1. Hold, don't caress. You need to warn me next time. Did her voice always sound that amazing with a hint of a growl in it? He must have been deaf to it before he reached true enlightenment with the power of nose touch. There is no preparation for the queen bee, Naruto rumbled back, a bit lost in this mild state of euphoria. His eyes drifted shut again as he enjoyed the cool feeling of her nose against his. There is experience and hearsay, no in between. Not what I was talking about. That was something more than her nose against his. There was something soft against his lips, DMN. But what was that delectable familiar but not taste he couldn't place? It was so strong right now, and a bit of pressure let him swallow her sweet breath that had somehow gotten pushed into his mouth. Oh, this was a full-on embrace, wasn't it? Right, he'd done that before. Granted, he was more human then, and his partner at the time was his yet-to-be killer. This is way better than that time. Wait, was she pulling back? Why? No, he didn't want it to stop yet. Oh, how'd she get his lip like that? I need to breathe, too, PP. She chuckled as he dabbed at the small cut with his tongue. When did they hug? How did he miss that Luna was looking at him with her so pretty eyes? Sorry, I've kind of been thinking about doing that since yesterday. Then you started up another boop, and it just felt... Boop? His eyebrows furrowed and lips quirked. That's a word he hadn't heard in a hot second. She stared at him, and then pulled her hands from his neck and hair. Hot SHT. When did she put her hands there? Note to self. Kisses were distracting to cover her face. She whined. Oh, that had to stop yesterday. He couldn't handle the way his chest was being torn in half from hearing that sound, and her tail stopped whooshing. In fact, it curled around her legs, if the faint brush against his shin was anything to go by. I didn't just call it that out loud. Pretty sure you did. He couldn't help the smile that was plastered on his face as she pushed her covered face into his chest. Another, softer whine tore at the strings that held his heart together. He chuckled and circled his arms around her to keep her upright. Yeah, it happened. You didn't finish explaining yet, you know. It's dumb. Luna. He chuckled and gently pulled her hands from her face to smile at her again. I started a date by getting you emotionally and partially physically molested by my own sister. Pretty sure I win in worst contribution to a first date. When Blitzo first adopted me, I had to be the one to establish boundaries. He knew all about hellhounds. She admitted with a laugh laced with as much spicy irritation as the dry amusement that accompanied it. And whenever I tried to claim something, like a couch seat or the bed, he wouldn't let it go. He would approach me and push on my nose with a finger. He called it a boop, and I always hated it so much. Because he made a game out of not knowing he was triggering. Territorial instincts, Naruto hummed, and she nodded. Yeesh, that SHT sounded rough to get through, and for a near-adolescent like Luna to have to teach her own father about it while adapting to a new living situation. No wonder she wanted to reassociate that feeling with something more pleasant. Hey, let me try something real quick. Couldn't stop you anyway. All right, the strong bitter sting of shame started to pervert her sweet vanilla scent. Now he definitely knew she needed a pick-me-up, so he reverted to something he used whenever he and B decided to make charity visits. His hands released the loose hold on her wrists to hold her sides and leaned down to rub his muzzle against hers. The rumble in his chest was still going strong, and she started to relax. The bitter shame and sour distress tastes left her sweet vanilla scent and left it alone with the 1F vibe he just couldn't label. Better? He asked, voice soft so as to not disrupt his rumble. Luna hummed and her tail swooshed behind her. Her hands slipped from his grasp and circled him. A bit, she admitted. He smiled and rode out the rumble for another minute. It was starting to sink in that they had just spent the past 15 minutes standing around in the middle of a clearing. Way to have a fun first date, Naruto. So, starting a conversation off strong, that was Naruto for you. Linguistic MSTR, be afraid. At least he had her attention, if that flick of her ear was anything to go by. But that was likely due to his rumbled stopping. I wasn't planning on the boop thing. Your mistake. Luna hummed as she rubbed her muzzle into his. What was he going to say again? He forgot because her claws slipped down to graze his butt. Consequently, her hips may have just been stroked by one, if not both, of his traitorous hands. Those curves though behave Naruelzebub. You wanted to take me on a hunt? For my birthday? Oh, yeah. SHT. Naruto closed his eyes and this was the worst decision he's made all day, pulled his hands away from those sexy hellhound hips before he got distracted again. A step back to keep temptation at bay, and a small sour dismay mingled into her scent. Sorry not sorry, he needed to focus. Just, before I forget. Oh, is this the surprise part? Luna cocked her hips as she crossed her arms, which, not fair. That was cheating. He was the goddamn ninja here. Cheating was his thing. To eye him with her 2F pretty crimson eyes. I was under the assumption that the molestation was part of it. No. I'll own up to that, though. I should have known she'd do something similar. I'm used to be acting like that with me. Weird. Her vanilla scent just gained soft hints of lust, and that familiar but not sweet smell increased around them. But with it was a spicy irritation. Why was she irritated? Probably for the whole molestation thing? No, I wanted to offer to, help you learn some basic magic. How and when did he get on the ground? Was there a weight on him? Oh, hey, Luna's pretty eyes were glowing again. You can teach me magic, not restricted to house or sin tricks, but straight up, legit, magic? So, yeah, maybe Luna had a thing for magical ability. Not only were her ears perked and her tail wagging non-stop, there was a heavy, but healthy, amount of gluttony that overwhelmed the rest of her sense vibes, and that was really doing it for Naruto. Not quite. The wagging slowed and her ears fell. He was quick to add. But I do have some books that I don't necessarily need anymore, and I can walk you through the exercises. Exercises? It's magic. Technically, it's demonic energy manipulation, Naruto droned. as the many boring theory instructors and books stated, before he smirked at the flat stare Luna leveled at him. But sure, magic users need to exercise, too. It's part of the body, and like any unused muscle, needs to be trained. What are you? The Gluttony Rings Royal Academy's Fies? Ed. Teacher? She scoffed. I could be, you don't know. He teased and poked her exposed, smooth, toned, but soft stomach. She yipped so cute and glared at him. I'd like to get off of the ground now. She growled and almost put them in another bouquets before she caught herself, pulled back and flicked her hair out of her face. Still dangled over him, and it smelled great. Figures, he was still close to getting stuck in another bouquets. This hellhound was just so pretty. I'll sit on you to spite you, don't tempt me. You trying to threaten me with a good time? He shot back with a smirk. You're so immature. Luna growled as she leaned down closer to his face. Her breath still had a hint of milk and vanilla from her latte, but it was hot and kind of tickled. How old are you, anyway? Well, SHT. He forgot that was a question Hellborn asked each other occasionally. What was a good estimate? 20-something? 30? Does it matter? Her eyes narrowed. It didn't until you tried to evade the question, just now. Typical. Just typical. May I sit up to answer? Luna hummed, her eyes rolled up an oomph. Okay, lighter than him she may be, but the buck's 60-something pounds of pure hellhound muscle was not something he was ready to have dropped on him all at once. He was also completely unprepared for the hot whisper that blew into his ear. No. Sweet merciful Lucifer, he had to not let the BLD flow shift down south right now. That nip in the chin was not helping Luna. It did start his rumble up again, and his tail contorted uncomfortably in its attempt to wriggle from where it was under his butt. You look like a runner. I give you an inch, you'll be gone a mile. Well, she's not wrong. I don't know. He sighed and let his head flop back. Ugh, he could feel all sorts of SHT getting tangled in his hair the longer he laid on the ground. He felt clawed hands move from where they held his shoulders down to rest one atop the other on his chest. With his arms free, they moved up to start, not exploring, more like surveying her long, powerful lean thighs. That thought should not make me as hungry as it did. He mused to himself as his stomach let out a near-silent glurg, as if it were disagreeing with him. Which shouldn't be the case, given all the vibes he'd been exposed to since this date started at Hothead's Cafe. Quiet, you. You don't know what? Luna asked, interrupting the argument that almost started between Naruto and his second brain. He looked back at her and then tasted his own scent as it filled with spicy shame. I don't know how old I am. He withheld a wince and a whine. He hated admitting that. It was all sorts of embarrassing. Almost more embarrassing than who he considered his first embrace to have been stolen by. FBSTRD couldn't just ruin his love life. He had to go and kill him, too. Luna pulled back to straddle his waist, and though it was super hot to see when he did glance, it was not helping him fight to control his BLD flow. If anything, that made it rush all the wilder through his system, including but not limited to towards his face, ears, and nose. There was a growing pressure at his groin he was not comfortable with, and he'd chosen a looser pair of jeans just for the hunt later. How? She finally asked as she glowered down at him. It can't be because of that time works differently in Hell SHPL. Kinda? Naruto pulled his left hand from her leg and wobbled it. Instead of returning to her leg, his hand slipped under his head and started scratching leaves, sticks, and clumps of dirt out. I mean, B found me while she was wandering around these woods like 6,000 years ago. Found? Luna repeated before her jaw dropped. 6,000? Look good for an old fart, don't I? He winked. Then yelped when she flicked his nose. Both hands shot to cover the sensitive organ. Oh, Luna, what the foo? Stop dropping bombshells and get to the point, but... Her growl was betrayed by the taste of her vibes. Some minor sour lust gave her overall sweetness a nice twist, and the spicy tang of wrath followed a dry concern, all of them edged with that deliciously weird familiar but not vibe he couldn't friggin' place. I'm getting to it. DMN. Naruto hissed as he scrunched his sniffer and blinked away the sting. He pinched it a few times with his free hand before he huffed at the hellhound. I told you I don't like talking about my past, Luna. Part of it is because I forgot a lot. So, what, you've looked like this for 6,000 years? She asked, eyes narrowed. Oh, no, PFFTIF wish. I was hibernating. I think that's how Belgaffer described it. He tapped his chin and tried to remember what the Sin of Sloth had said about his condition. I've been walking around on and off for like 370-something years. Most of that I was still a little runt, and I kept conking out at random intervals because of a health issue. SHT, I've only really been awake this time for like 10 or so years. We're closer to the same age, developmentally speaking. Excuse you? I mean, what? You didn't always look this hot in your teens, did you? We're not talking about my body right now. Can we after? Joke. It was a joke. He quickly backpedaled and covered his snout when she lifted a curled finger to his nose. Flat red eyes, that were gorgeous as sin, kept staring at him as he stared back at her. She eventually lowered her finger, and he waited about beat before he lowered his hands. She immediately cupped his muzzle in her claws and kept her cool nose just out of reach of his so she could force him to look into her eyes. Bad joke. Bad timing. Work on it. The hellhound didn't ask so much as order with her growl. To which, yes ma'am, you bet you're sweet, but he nodded the second he had an opening to. The reward for such swift response was a quick trip to F. Bliss courtesy of a stolen boop was followed by another question. So, you're 6,000 years old. Only if we go by my soul's age and chronological time. Then how old? I'm in my 20s, I think. Naruto furrowed his brow and then shrugged. I dunno, F math. I just guesstimate based on how old I was before I woke up like this. What, did you have a different body before? Luna snorted, and he started looking away again before she tapped his nose with a claw. All of the attention belonged to the pretty hellhound that was still straddling him. Immaculate red eyes were narrowed. Naru el-Zebub. Ugh, don't call me that. Not you. He fought back the whine as best he could. Almost 400 he might have been. A child at heart he would always be, but it still slipped out. Gentle warmth blew on his face in a huff before yes, boop 3. A couple more, and he should get a free bowl of ramen. Answer the question. Luna grumbled as her tail started to swoosh. Oh, good, he wasn't the only one succumbing to the unstoppable power of the boop. He'd started to think it was a secret weapon at this point. Fine. He sighed and glanced at the sky. As foggy as his mind was from boops, he could still tell when time was slipping by. But this is the last question, all right? The answer needs context, and the context takes time to explain. We should go hunting before it gets too late. As if on cue, her stomach growled. Cute little gurgle that it was. It still stirred Luna from her daze. She gave him another look, one he didn't need to taste her vibes to understand, before she huffed and laid down on his chest. It felt so right. Agreed. Now answer. Right. Naruto let his head fall back again, and he closed his eyes as his hands moved to play with the soft gray-white hair that fell down her back. His rumble started again as she pushed her nose up to the underside of his. Back before heaven cast Lucifer down, hell was just the place beyond the gates. A place where deceit, murder, and other evils were common. It had no name to the higher powers, but to the inhabitants. We called the various lands the elemental nations. Birds chirped. Wind spiraled. Naruto, Sasuke. Collision. Light faded. Darkness rose. A deep chill froze his fingers. Toes weren't even a thought. They'd clearly fallen off long ago. There was a faint drip of water. The ground was drenched in it. He floated on the surface. Weightless, peaceful, a roar echoed underground and was suddenly silenced. Blue eyes cracked open. I'm alive? He tilted forward and his feet scraped the ground beneath the water. A quick swirl around caused a ripple that rang out from his armpits. The sewers of his mind, a Mana pervy sage claimed that it was caused by his childhood. Yeah, he was a little lonely growing up. But that didn't mean he thought himself as a stinkin' sewer. This isn't I can't die yet. He waded in the direction of the seal. It took years, months, eons, weeks, days, millennia, seconds before he found it. Torn, open, but not empty. Fox, he stepped up to the gate. A boiling creature covered in blistering skin stared at him beyond the bars, lifelessness in the voids that were its eyes, but warm with life. He hesitated, then he grabbed the bars. They creaked open. The creature opened his mouth. The gates shattered. It flooded into his mouth, throat, lungs, chakra, heart, brain. His body burst, reformed, died, revived, split, united. Fire burned through cold veins and lightning charged for his core only to cut by the roar of a storm. A boy screamed in the silence of his death. Hatred clung to the chance of life it was offered. A god of death closed the account and vanished. Heaven mourned the fall of the last pure soul. The Big G awoke with an idea. The world turned into hell. Luna followed the fox fiend through the brush, his story fresh in her head. He claimed to be from a world of humans, of ninja, with powers not unlike that hellborn and angels commanded, torn apart by war for hundreds if not thousands of years. To have been cursed with being a living cage for a demon of immense power for his entire life, and apparently long into his death. It sounded like a nice little fairy tale that wrath-born demons would tell their kids. If it were true, why didn't it get talked about? What's to gain from the secret? Where's the evidence behind it to prove his claim? Was it just part of some kind of elaborate prank? Goddamn last question clause. The BSTRDF knew she would have more questions when he was done. Even if it weren't a steaming load of SHT, she'd still probably stick around the private fox fiend. His scent still made her feel hot. His touch was borderline addicting, and his taste was divine. She had him dead to rights with the embrace, and she all but claimed him as hers with the nip that drew BLD. 3 boops happened, and every time the same electric shiver went up her spine. Lucifer, being around him, set her fur on edge and caused her heart to race. More. Base instincts wanted him wanted to seal the deal with the carnal dance, to lay the stud and push out pups for his house. She was not Blitzo. She didn't want to dive into a relationship for shits and giggles. She wanted to start one, yeah, but she wanted it to be hers, to be the one thing that Blitzo couldn't claim to have given her because he thought she deserved it. She didn't want a pity anymore. Those were a dime a dozen at any shitty bar, which hell had by the thousands. She wanted him. At least, she was mostly sure she did if he was with her about his age, about how the fox fiend Naru Elzebub came to be. She may have to revisit that evaluation. Any further consideration of their relationship's progression was halted when he stopped beside a tree. SHH. Naruto put a clawed finger to his lips, warm, soft, lips that had a divine earthy taste before he parted a bush to reveal the gray stags of gluttony. He nodded to it, and she stepped up beside him to look. Her ears flushed as their tails brushed each other mid-wag or midst wiggle. Despite the questions on her mind, Luna was a simple creature at the end of the day. She licked her lips at the bounty before her, until she saw them eat. The stags of gluttony lacked true stomachs, rather they had a slit in their gullet in its place. So whatever they ate from the forested dirt just fell right back to the ground, chewed and lathered in saliva. It would likely then be picked up from the ground by a different stag, and the cycle would repeat ad infinitum unless outside forces interfered. Ugh, and I want to eat that? Her ears went flat as her lips curled in disgust. What the F is wrong with me? Hey, don't knock it until you try it. His gorgeous eyes twinkled as she looked into them. Then all too soon they were averted to look at the stags. The twinkle was gone and a gleam replaced it. We need to move fast to catch them. When you reach it, tear its throat out, rip a limb off, or leave a deep gash. If you don't get a kill shot on these things, they'll fight back. You do know I'm employed by assassins, right? Luna asked. His ear flicked towards her, and his sinfully delicious lips pulled up into a smile. Her eyes narrowed. He wasn't seriously going to. Aren't you the receptionist? This cheeky? Being cute would only save him from so many butt whoopings. Taking a dig at her job was definitely crossing a line. Are you saying you think I can't kill one of those things? She bared her teeth. He glanced at her from the corner of his eye and flashed some of his teeth himself. Don't put words in my mouth, Luna. Oh, if he kept growling at her like that she'd put something in his mouth. Wait, focus. He didn't disagree with her. He did think she couldn't handle this. I didn't hear a no. She growled at him. He turned his head away from the bush to meet her glare, and his nostrils flared in a fury. Are you trying to challenge me? That growl. She wanted it inside her. Whoa, easy there, hellhound instincts. You're just hungry. Get a snack, and then reconsider chasing fox fiend PP tail. His tail? Luna wanted to bite his tail. That didn't sound good in her head. She definitely shouldn't say it aloud. She tore her eyes off of the fox fiend and glared at the grazing stags. It was a small herd, 7 at most. Try nothing. Her red eyes narrowed as they looked back at the appealing oceans that were glaring at her. I bet I could kill more than you with just my fangs and claws. His snarl was hushed, and he clenched his jaw as one of stags looked up towards them. The forest around them was silent aside from the gray stag's noisy eat-chew-dump grazing pattern. A minute passed, and the scanning stag rejoined its herd. Naruto took a deep breath through his nose. The quick rumble in his chest made her tail flick, before he spoke again. Have you ever hunted gray stag before, Luna? No. Her lip pulled up, a toothy smirk and narrowed eyes. But I challenged you, Naruelzebub. What's wrong? Are you scared of losing beach? A bit of an overstep. An NNND here he is in her space boop? No, wait, don't boop. Not now. Luna wanted this win to be legit, and snarled. The clawed hands, lean forearms, thick triceps, and deceptively tight biceps flexed as his tail snapped about like a viper behind him. Come on, he needed to say something before she just jumps him. Name your terms. That growl was so hot. Wait, no, don't submit. Challenge. It's the first fucking date, isn't it? Let's keep it basic. Luna growled back as she held his gaze and fought to keep her tail from going absolute crazy as he huffed his warm breath into her face. Winner gets one request from the loser. Decided on victory, either mount up or stop growling, goddamn. No stacking bets and nothing weird. Luna gave a curt nod. She held a hand up and glared into his too goddamn pretty eyes. Deal? A toothy smirk spread up Naruto's muzzle before his hand encased hers. That was a big hand, and it was so warm. Strong to believe not 10 minutes ago it caressed her thigh and stroked her hip in a delightfully distracting manner. Not to mention the way it raked through her hair while she laid on his chest. After lunch, they were doing that again. You're on. Damn it, their noses were so close for one last boop. No, Luna, stay strong. You know what's at stake here. That thought on her mind, she did a quick evaluation of their respective skills, or rather of what she knew. He outclassed her in reach and strength, the latter of which should not make her as hot as it did, and he had more experience with the stags than she did. Not to mention his apparent adept skill in magic, what with him cutting trees down in clusters from a distance and the clones he could spawn. However, she grew up fighting in the kennel that the orphanage ran on the side, and her stuff was always at risk of being stolen if she didn't defend it. Blitzo, for as SHT of a job he did early on after adopting her, gave her a few pointers and experience fighting other Hellborn. So, with that all on her mind, Luna came to a decision. She tightened her grip, pulled herself closer to him, and grazed his chin with her teeth. Then, with him recovering from that, she twisted and threw him over her shoulder back into the brush away from the stags. She didn't even wait to see where he landed or how, and tore through the branches behind her with a snarl. One stag had its throat torn out with ease, and Luna was glad she picked brighter, least favorite clothes she had in her closet. That BLD spray was no joke. Luna tasted the BLD on her finger, and wow, yum. Another larger glob was licked off of her palm, and she felt her tail wag. First kill, and she took the lead. And these things were considered dangerous creatures of gluttony. They were such easy pickings. She'd noticed that the small herd surrounded her with glowing red eyes. That was cheap as SHT. Naruto grumbled as he stepped out of the wood. Her ear flicked towards him as she kept moving her gaze around the herd. She jumped back when one rushed her position. Ha! Take that, you wait. What the F? Luna snarled, ears straight up and her eyes wide as the one that rushed her immediately started chowing down on her kill. The weird, grazing bites tore surprisingly well into the corpse. The others of the herd moved to join it, only for it to collapse when its head suddenly vanished off of its body. The herd paused once more, patient as they sought the smell of death of their kin. Yeah, remember when I said they fight back, SHT? She didn't even see him move. His right side was drenched in the stag's BLD, the head he just removed still in his hand as he looked it over. His blue eyes drifted to her, his BLD splattered muzzle pulled back into another smirk. Fair warning, they will eat anything they can bite into. Good to know. Luna smirked back at him. She lunged forward with another roar and drove 2 claws into the necks of the smaller 2 on the edge. She ripped meat and veins from the bodies and let them drop. Her tail swooshed as she tossed 1 chunk of venison into her mouth and swallowed it in a gulp. Disgusting diet aside, these things didn't taste half bad. She downed the other chunk and smirked at her date. 3-1. He growled at her, and his tail snapped about so strong behind him it cracked the air. The 4 stags stomped their hooves, and the 8-point buck that was the largest of the bunch suddenly found itself downed on the other side of the small patch of wood, sans 1 rear leg. The fox fiend stood a step behind where it had been, a torn leg in his gasp. He lifted it to his mouth and took a well-deserved bite, staining the ratty white shirt he wore a further darker red. Hot BLD rushing through her veins, she ran at the stag that decided she wasn't interested in her double kill. Its last mistake. She pounced and carried it down, her jaw around its skull as her claws dug into its hide. It bleated and kicked at the air, unable to reach her, as she pulled and tore into the crown of its head. Her teeth pierced into bone with a loud crunch, and its fight ended with 1 last twist. The last stag that she had written off, rather certain her date would take that kill, while she focused on a gore-filled finisher with the one beneath her and cemented her win of their wager, suddenly barreled into her. Plate-like teeth harder than steel clamped onto her shoulder and pulled, not only tearing fur, but taking a surface level of flesh. She yelped, more surprised than hurt, and rolled away before she stared down the small horned buck that chewed her tougher hide. Furious, she lowered herself to her haunches and growled. Her eyes were focused on the threat prey that challenged her so blatantly. It stomped the ground and stepped over the corpse of her last kill. She bared teeth and tensed, ready to lunge again, as it lowered its head to brandish the serrated antlers atop its head, sharper than any of the others. Right, okay, she needed to perform a feint, then. Luna snarled and launched herself forward. The gray stag held its ground and kept its head low, and a second before she reached its antler, she twisted on her left hand, pushed and jumped over its attempted strike that left a slight cut in her flesh. She landed in the corpse of her last kill, splattered with remains and slipped on the withered intestines. She failed to bite back a yelp when her right leg let out an uncomfortable and loud crick. That was either sprained or fractured. That would take a minute to heal. The 4-point stag rounded and lumbered forward, intent to charge this time and claim the kills she made as its own. The most infuriating thing about this was that the wouldn't even appreciate it. She snarled and tossed some guts at the stag to blind it and let her reposition at 8 that SHT right out of the air, because of course it did. The BLD-covered foxfiend roared as he blindsided the stag and dug his fangs into its rear. The ground was torn up beneath his feet, he hijacked their momentum and reared back to his full height once he stopped. His hands grabbed the stag under the ribs and his head pulled back on the butt it was biting into. The damned beast was ripped apart, and both Hellhound and Foxfiend were showered in its BLD. Naruto dropped the butt from his mouth and threw the torso to the side. He stalked over to her and scented the air before he knelt at Luna's side. His hand was offered to hers and again she took it. He helped her to her feet and steadied her when she almost dropped again with an unintentional whine. That was a fractured leg. You all right? Slipped and landed wrong. Luna whimpered when she tried to put any weight on it. She winced and leaned against him to keep herself steady. His violet and not quite coconut scent mixed well with fresh kill. His muzzle rubbed against hers and oh, yes, there's that soothing rumble. Well, we can't just stick around. The pests will be here to clean up soon, he muttered. Well, that was a little foreboding. What the is a pest, whoa? Luna wrapped her arms around his neck to correct the sudden quick bout of vertigo and scowled at him. I was fine. She could walk, limp just fine. If he wanted to help her, that was fine, but carrying was definitely not something to do without permission. Before she could finish protesting, he started walking away from their kills. A glance over his shoulder, so many foxfiends covered in stag BLD were gathering the venison. She almost wanted to stay and watch, up until one looked up and stuck his tongue out at her. Well, that guy then, and not in a good way. Yeah, but I have an excuse to carry you now. Cheeky fuckboop. Yes, Luna sighed as his cool, slightly sticky nose pressed against hers. Sweet, sweet violet and almost coconut wafted into her nose, along with a hint of death and meat. Her tail wagged full blast, and from the corner of her eyes, She could see his tail wriggle behind him. You won? Whatcha want? You. Base instincts weren't wrong. Not the terms, though. Also, she had to clarify something before she got to it. Did you let me win? She muttered before she gently licked at the BLD on his face. The scent was a little distracting, and she was curious. Yum. Stag-flavored fox fiend might be her new favorite thing. His ears folded back, and he looked away. Little bit. Well, at least he didn't lie to her outright. That proved to be promising for their future relationship. Your mistake. Luna hummed and started cleaning his face a little more earnestly, mostly to get more of that delicious stag BLD with a hint of fox fiend inside her gut. A jostle almost made her stop, but the taste was DMN near addicting. The rumble that shook his body mixed with her favorite sound in the world, and his tongue flat, thick, smooth, wet, warm, yes, please, swept over a part of her jaw. Unholy SHT, she felt like she was on fire. So, he asked around a breath of hot air. He was seated against a tree and had her cradled in his lap. Luna didn't mind, just made it easier to bring his muzzles down for another boop, which she did. F. Bliss, thy name is Boopo. Hey, embrace? Yeah, I embrace work, too. This one was kept brief, disappointingly short and delectably sweet, because one of his hands grazed her leg. Moi F. SHT. She hissed as she flinched back. She glared at the damaged leg as if it killed her future child, which was totally possible if it got infected. Stupid weak butt immune system. Why the F did hellhounds get so shafted when it came to hellborn perks? She needed to file a F complaint with someone. We should take that to get looked at. Naruto rumbled as he leaned forward to she growled when he sniffed it. Might be infected, same with the wound on your shoulder. Or we could just let it go and eat the deer. It'll get better if it's left alone, Luna offered. Half-lidded blue eyes looked up into her red. She bared teeth and growled. We are not going to sloth over a stupid fracture. You want that to be your favor for the bet, because that's the only F way I'll consider it. F. She didn't want to waste that. She had ideas for that favor, like him being her masseuse for a day, or her personal beach for a day duties, including SXL requests and mundane runs, or even making a Gotham since the Voxtagram account, so she didn't have to keep finding so many F-thirst or hate posts when she searched for him online. I want another favor. You want an additional favor? For me taking you to Sloth's hospital of my own free will. It's not out of my free will. Point. He admitted, and she smirked. Good, now she didn't have to use her trump card, is what she had hoped until he kept talking. But I'll need another. I haven't gotten a Hellbeast shot in 3 years. I'm sorry, what? It's scheduled for next year. Luna shrugged. Sucked for future Luna, but right now, she doesn't have to worry about it. If she can avoid a hospital visit, she sure as SHT would. Oh my F yep. We're going to the hospital. He was on his feet, and there was a flare of energy to her left. The glowing white seal of Elzebub emerged into existence on a wide oak. A portal swirled into existence and showed the purple-aired ring of sloth. Wait, hold on. She wasn't ready for this. Her claws tightened on his neck, and she felt that familiar tremble start up as she remembered the horrors of the orphanage's nurse office. That portal was getting closer. She could already smell antiseptic. Nope. WH easy, Luna. Hey, come on, calm down. You'll get your favor, alright? Just come on F. Oh, watch the elbow. For the last F time, no, ma'am. Just because you were right about which of them would wake up first does not mean you get to F name my firstborn. Oh, that is such a load of bullshit. If I have to tell the both of you to shut up again, I'll have Satan himself throw you out the window on the 20th floor. And he'll do it, too. I'll record it, remix it, and put it on a jumbo screen. Wait, what the F am I doing now? Throwing Mams out a window if he keeps trying to fight Lucy. SHH, guys, he's waking up. Oh, look at his cute little face. His eyes cracked open and stared up at the three-headed rooster that stared back in the bright lavender room. Hey, there, kiddo. Welcome to hell. Huh. Hell. Weird name. SHD, he was tired. His eyes closed, and when they opened again, other faces hovered over him with the rooster. One looked like some kind of short clown, another a fat clown, Both of them tried to subtly shove the other out of the way. The flaming rooster was covering the center head's cheeks and mouth with his hands, while beside him a yellow fox whose hair was going nuts was cooing at him. Behind those two was a giant F-off red dragon that glared at him. "Alright, F you too, fucking lizard." A sudden blurry giant head craned in to get in his face, blocking his view of the others. The void in its eyes flashed until they matched his blue. "Get out of his face, Levi. Oh my, have you ever interacted with a hellborn child before?" No? No one here has, that's why I'm trying to figure him out." "Christ's sake, back up, you're crowding around him," the short clown ordered. "Out, everyone get the F out, F me, if you're going to be this bad for some nobody. No F way am I letting you near Lilith." "Thanks F'ers, I didn't even F do anything this time," the giant red dragon grumbled as he stepped out. The blurry blue-eyed giant glanced at him one last time before it strode out. The fat clown grumbled something about profit and so tired. His eyes opened and found the rooster, the gold fox, and the short clown still in the room. "Hey there, sport." The clown grinned with sharp F-off teeth. He stared at the smile. It reminded him of a walking shark that wanted to shave his legs. Why did that sound scary for multiple reasons? "Oh, F, he looks like he's gonna cry." "SHH, no, sweetheart, don't cry." The rooster cooed. "Wow, Lucy, you're going to be such a SHT dad." The gold fox laughed. "Oh, yeah, think you're so F good at it?" Clown man looked like he was going to turn into a giant tomato. And then he sprouted horns. "Huh, that's new. Then you can take him." "Wait, F what?" Luce, I don't think that's it." "You F heard me, B." The flaming crowned, horned clown poked the gold fox in the face. "You found his fucking egg and brought it here after I told you to leave it the F alone. Well, Bell's got him pretty much F cleared, so what you F do best, have fun. Now if you'll excuse me, I have to get back to work." He left in a burst of flame that turned into a giant middle finger. Okay, short clown was a PP, but that was cool as SHT. He'd definitely be the best Hokage if he learned how to do that HM. What's a Hokage? And why did he want to be one? He just dumped this kid on me? The F does he think he is? That is so not F cool, Lucy. Hey, now B, I know you're upset. Upset? Ozzy, you think I'm upset? Nah, Beach, you ain't fucking seen upset. I'll show you fucking upset. He watched the gold fox lose her SHT and start to change into a giant fuzzy hee-hee. He got it. Her name, her looks. She was just a giant fuzzy. B-E, he snorted. The two creatures' eyes turned to him as his vision started to go dark again. Before he succumbed to drag-induced slumber, he giggled a bit at the dance of colors he could see. It reminded him of Bee's hair. She was a pretty hairy bee. Ha! Duke Elzebub, come to the front desk. Duke Elzebub, to the front desk. The PA system demanded before it went quiet. A slightly beat-up Naruto opened his eyes. He was in the waiting room for An's, the largest and arguably busiest hospital in Sloth, if the thus far 2-hour wait was any indication. His fur was starting to feel grimy from the BLD that caked over it. His left eye was slightly swollen from the strong elbow to the face his date dished out when she tried to escape getting medical help. He couldn't calm her down enough to get a boop in, and he's pretty sure the only reason he got her through the portal was because she further damaged her leg. His scratched-up arms were wound tight around the girl in question as she trembled, while he kept his muzzle by her notched ear and he rumbled into it. "Luna, we're going in now, okay?" The responding whimper tore at his chest and he rubbed his chin against her head. When the whimpers lessened and her sweet vanilla scent lost most of the disgusting sour tastes of fear, pain, and trauma that mingled with it, he rose up to approach the desk and kept speaking softly to her. "I'm right here. It's okay. SHH, SHH, SHH. Duke Elzebub?" one of the Baphomet nurses asked once he got there. Her extrapian eyes squinted at the chart in hand. "You requested a walk-in checkup? Are you okay, sir?" "Huh. Oh, yeah, I'm fine. He glanced at Luna, unsure how to address her. They'd gone on one date. SHT, it was still the same date. He was confident enough to say that it was F terrible. Mostly for her. Luna had to be introduced to be unprepared. They got into a small fight about his age, which wasn't anyone's business to begin with, and then she injured her leg hunting gray stags. Well, hopefully, they could stay friends. Thoughts about that could wait. My, friend here broke her leg while we were hunting gray stags. Oh, so that's what the bloodstains are. The nurse muttered before she began typing into her computer. Well, at least she had the professional courtesy not to ask. Do we have identification to use? Does she have any family we should contact? They may have only had the one awful date, but Naruto was pretty damn certain Luna would, without a shadow of doubt, kill him if he let Blitzo find out about this. They're away on business. Maybe? She said something about having done something to keep Blitzo unaware. Her name is Luna, all right? Hellborn or sinner? Hellborn. She's a hellhound. Does she have an owner? Beach, Naruto growled, but stopped when the hound in his arms whimpered again. He closed his eyes and worked his jaw before he managed to grit out, "Just put her treatment under my plan." "Sir, you know we can't do that without permission from her." Oh. Naruto snarled and turned to keep Luna curled in his side while he got in the nurse's face and let a portion of his true form show. He felt the boiling push in his forehead as his okeli pushed through the skin of his restricted form and a sharp burn as his lower jaw split to emulate mandibles. The sheep-like demon was now appropriately hyper-focused on him. She trembled like a leaf and reeked of mortal terror. "I said put her on my plan." "All right, sir." "Why, yes, sir." The Baphomet nurse started typing frantically into her computer. Naruto huffed and reverted, determined to ignore the migraine he now had from that small burst of power. He adjusted his hold on Luna again and rubbed his jaw along her head to quell the whimpers that had started up again. His eyes darted to the other nurses and orderlies that were frozen as they stared. His lip curled to expose his sharp teeth. "Don't you people have jobs to do?" St. Ans had never seen so much productivity in their office staff. Yes, sir?" The Baphomet was talking to him again. Your room is this way. Follow me." Finally. He followed the nurse and glared at anyone that got too close to them. He all but snarled at a group of succubi physicians that had the audacity to block the hallway while they went over their stupid gossip. The whole trip took less than 3 minutes, but throughout it all, he kept his date's head tucked under his chin. "Right in here," the Baphomet nurse said. Her misaligned eyes kept looking between him and Luna as he sat with her on the examination table. The doctor will be with you. You have 5 minutes before I go and find any doctor to make them do their job," he warned. The nurse stared at him, and he curled his lip again. "Did I stutter?" She was gone. That's got to be the fastest Baphomet he's ever seen. Naruto growled when the door slowly shut without a nurse to hold it open, and then went back to rumbling into the hellhound's ear, so he might not like hospitals either. He was better at hiding it than Luna, but that was because he'd had it beaten into him sometimes by his own hand, sometimes by the hands of others that it was a necessary evil. If only there was a unanimous ban on long wait periods for treatment. I should not have to use my royal status just to get my friend checked out sooner than an hour after we got here, he thought with a glare aimed at the wall. Sorry. Naruto looked down at the hellhound on his lap. That was the first word she'd said since he opened a portal from gluttony. His rumble stopped, and he adjusted his hold on her so he could see her face. For what? This. Ruining the date. The hellhound scowled. She gestured at her leg which, that legging was fully bled through. To say it did not look good would be an understatement. That doctor needed to get here at ASAP, and growled. If I hadn't twisted my leg. This was self-defeatist talk. He was good at dealing with that. But punching her in the face was probably the wrong call, even if his gut screamed that it was the shinobi way to do it, so he settled on a softer method. His finger curled up at the claw, and he lightly knocked the knuckle on her nose. "Oh, what the sh? You got molested by my sister. I didn't even remember to grab your presents, and the whole stupid hunt was my idea," Naruto reminded her. She rubbed her face for a second before she huffed and lowered her hand. With the opportunity offered, he used the same assaulting finger to guide her muzzle up to meet him and leaned forward. Boop power, activate. Naruto smiled at the hellhound as her ears shot up and her cute dark tail gave a soft wag. He took in her gorgeous red eyes, the fine accents that dried BLD left with her pretty white hair, and sweet vanilla scent that lingered on her fur. He was fully aware that the date was over, and he F it up. If by some miracle he got another shot, he was just going to take her to fucking Aussies. A little embarrassment from the oversized rooster would be worth showing her a good time. Luna opened her mouth to protest, to argue. He didn't and likely would never know, because there was an immediate knock at the door followed by the sound of the handle turning. Naruto dropped his smile and pulled back as the physician walked in. "Hello, good afternoon, Duke Elzebub, Lady Luna." The doctor smiled as he stepped in and closed the door behind him. He was an old, teal-furred Baphomet with 2 curved horns and obscured, thick milk bottle glasses. He adjusted those glasses as he walked closer to them. "I'm Dr. Sumnai. I'm actually the head of the veterinary staff. I'll admit, I was expecting Prince Elzebub when Nurse Fetchit told us about a royal with a hellhound situation. The last time she brought a hellhound, he'd almost lost his my foulness. Look at that break." The old doctor tottered forward and gently poked at Luna's leg. "No sanitation, no questioning, just a fucking poke." "What the F? That can't feel good, huh?" The hellhound in question snarled, and Naruto had to wrap an arm around her side and pull her in close to keep her from moving from where she now sat between his legs. His jaw landed between her ears and took the fight out of her with a gentle rumble. He kept rumbling and glared at the physician. "I can only keep this up for so long, doctor." "Oh, calm down, calm down. This isn't my first rodeo with an injured hellhound. They're mostly bite over bark." Sumna chuckled and walked over to the cabinets with the sink in the corner. He pulled a very colorful, almost childish step stool out from beneath the sink and climbed onto the counter, before he reached into a large door. Various medical tools tossed left and right over his shoulders. "Let's see here. No, that's not it. Oh, that's expired. Oh, well, that'll help with setting the bone." A bottle of Tom Plank's lived suture was set at Sumna's hooves. Luna's ears whapped Naruto in the face when they went straight up. "Set?" she squeaked, and, oh, he deserved a F medal for how well he handled the sudden blast of fear he had to swallow. He tightened his arms around her and started his rumble back up. This was the longest he'd ever had to let it go. "Yes, we have to set the bone. Don't want it to heal at an angle, do you?" Sumna laughed as if he was funny. The fox fiend growled at him before he ran his claws up and down Luna's side when her whimpers started back up. "Don't listen to him, it'll be okay," he whispered. The hellhound let out another whimper, and he decided against any more possibly false platitudes. "Aha, here we are," Sumna called before he turned and pulled out a... "What the actual F is that?" Naruto cried at the sight of the giant as F syringe the Baphomet held over his head. Luna had gone concerningly still, and her scent was all sorts of negative. That went without tasting the vibes that he knew were rancid and thick in the air. "Well, in the questionnaire you filled out in the waiting room, you marked unvaccinated." Dr. Sumna, who sure as SHT needed to get his license re-evaluated, said, brandishing the oversized syringe like a broadsword. "I figure we can knock her out with a lifetime supply she's 3 years overdue for. Pour the bourbon on the bone, set it, and ship ya out before the day's done." F that, he and Luna snapped as a united front. He pulled Luna close to him as eagerly as she scooted away from the approaching needle. "Oh, come on, it's just a small prick." The doctor's glasses gleamed as he walked forward. "Quick and painless, you won't feel a thing, I promise." Luna's whimpers started to turn into growls, and Naruto was half tempted to just let her go. Unfortunately, she still had that whole busted leg thing that he'd rather her not lose. Even if they didn't go on another date and just stayed friends, he was going to ogle her sexy legs. He didn't want any guilt associated with that, outside of the very minuscule guilt he'd have for objectifying her. But that's what happened when you grew up with a SXLY liberal culture all around you. How I've remained chaste this long. Oh yeah, there were those the sporadic bouts of coma that F helped. Naruto thought with a snort before he kicked out at the doctor when he tried to lunge forward. "Back off, lamb chop," he snarled before he looked at the growling Luna and then at the doctor. "I have a better idea." So alright folks, that's all for today. Stay tuned for part 4. Do subscribe, like and share for more such videos. Also check out the story and author Bones Boy 15 on FANFICTIONnet. press the bell icon to be notified first on release. See you in the next video. Till then, goodbye.